Chapter 4957 looked down on the world. Yunchujia's body trembled. At this moment, she felt that she was a piece of trash. No. She would never let the tragedy of puppet number 1, number 2, and number 3 happen again. In her eyes, puppet number 4 and puppet number 5 were like other dumb cuties. They were living beings and were her companions. Almost at the same time, there were purple lightning crackling in her eyes. The strong killing intent from her body made Yuan Ji and the others beside her sit on the ground, staring at Yunchujo with their mouths agape. The people from the Divine Devil Hall could not help but step back. Although they did not know what had happened to Yunchujo, the trembling from the depths of their souls made them lose the courage to continue fighting. Yunchujo said to puppet number 4 and puppet number 5, "No need. They are just a bunch of trash. Let me do it." Although puppet number 4 and puppet number 5 had gained sentience, their sentience was still limited. They were a little confused and could not understand what had happened. Yunchujo ignored them and looked at the people of the Divine Devil Hall. The people of the Divine Devil Hall did not know how to describe Yunchujia's current gaze. Even using words like looking down on the world was not enough to describe her current aura. It was as if they were just a group of ants in front of her. One of the golden-masked men said in a trembling voice, "No, don't panic. She is deliberately mystifying. Let's attack together." When the other golden-masked men heard this, they immediately released their spiritual beasts and attacked Yunchujo. Yuan Ji's heart trembled. It was over. Although this troublemaker looked like a real person, it was impossible for her to be a match for so many people. Just as he was about to get up and bring his subordinates to help, he fell to the ground again with his mouth agape. He saw dozens of flying swords, killing people on their own. Had they become spirits? He wanted to find Yunchujia's figure, but he only caught an afterimage. Wherever the afterimage passed, there were corpses of the people from the Divine Devil Temple. The golden-masked men were already shrouded in great fear. They no longer cared about the mission and wanted to escape in panic. However, their heads were cut off by the flying swords within a few feet. Yuan Ji watched with his mouth agape. He had a guess that the dozens of swords were all controlled by Yunchujo. Oh God, 1, 2, 10, that was a total of 77 to 49 flying swords. This one-sided massacre only lasted for half an hour. No one from the Divine Devil Hall survived. Yunchujo put away the flying sword and the large kitchen knife, and slowly turned to look at Yuan Ji. That cold and piercing gaze made Yuan Ji's heart sink to the bottom of the valley. It was over, this troublemaker. No. Was the female devil going to kill him too? Yunchujia's emotionless voice sounded, "Don't have any wicked thoughts, or I'll kill you." Before Yuan Ji could understand what Yunchujo meant, Yunchujo closed her eyes and fainted. However, the moment Yunchujo fell to the ground, puppet number 4 and puppet number 5 caught her and placed her on the giant rabbit's body. Yuan Ji gulped and stood up after a long while. His subordinates were no better. They looked at Yunchujo, who was on the giant rabbit, in fear. Oh God, what happened to Yunchujo just now? This was too scary. She was simply inhuman. Chapter 4958, The Bird That Can Talk. Yunchujia's stupid and adorable people automatically protected Yunchujo in the middle, vigilantly staring at Yuan Ji and the others. At this moment, Yuan Ji's heart was filled with an indescribable feeling. He felt that it was necessary to have a good talk with their pavilion master. This kind of Yunchujo was not someone he could provoke. Although he did not know what had happened to Yunchujo just now, there was a 90% chance that there was a seal in her body. This meant that her identity was definitely not simple. The pavilion master was simply asking for trouble by provoking her, not to mention the even more perverted de-biming. He calmed his emotions and said to the dumb cubs, "Don't worry, I won't harm her." Xiao Hanyo was not afraid of being exposed anymore. He snorted coldly, "It better be so, or else I'll kill you." Yuan Ji, a talking bird? However, he was already numb. That female devil had too many secrets, so it was not strange for anything to happen to her. He smiled bitterly and said, "Don't look at the people from the Divine Devil Hall who were killed by her. Maybe the Divine Devil Hall will send people over. So, we are now in the same boat. Besides, she poisoned us. If she dies, we won't be able to live either." The little black bird stared at Yuan Ji with its possessed eyes. Seeing that what he said did not seem to be a lie, it did not say anything. Yuan Ji thought for a moment, "Well, how long will it take for your master to wake up? What should we do next?" The little black bird thought for a moment, "It's hard to say. She might wake up very soon, or it might take 2 or 3 days. Let's go find the pretty boy first." Yuan Ji wanted to laugh when he heard the little black bird say, "Gigolo," but he felt that what it said made sense. No matter what, he had to find Di Biming first. He no longer had the courage to go against Yun Chuzhou. He calculated in his heart that if he could help Yun Chuzhou find Di Biming, she would owe him a favor. Maybe she could let the pavilion master off in the future. Moreover, they had been poisoned by her. He was still counting on her to detoxify them. Yuan Ji immediately brought his subordinates and dumb cuties to look for Di Biming's traces. Who would have thought that there were actually people from the Divine Devil Hall surrounding them from behind? There were at least 1,000 of them. Yuan Ji was instantly dumbfounded. It seemed that these people should be sent by the Divine Devil Hall later. This time, they were really going to die. The leader of the purple-masked men stared at Yuan Ji with a sinister gaze. "Is your Lan family planning to completely make an enemy out of our Divine Devil Hall? Also, how did the people from before die?" Just as Yuan Ji did not know how to answer, Yun Chuzhou, who was lying on the giant rabbit's back, opened her eyes. After a moment of confusion, she sat up weakly. "How do you think they died?" "Take a guess," Yun Chuzhou said with some contempt. Her heart was like a beeping dog. Why did so many people come out? Her body was very weak now. Even if she was stimulated, she wouldn't be able to stimulate her potential anymore. The purple-masked man snorted. "I don't have the patience. I'll know everything after I catch you. Go." "Wait a minute. The one who died earlier is called Qi Sha. What's your name?" Yun Chuzhou asked, obviously trying to stall for time. The purple-masked man said with contempt, "Im Chi Dai. Dementia? You really know your own limits." Yun Chuzhou laughed while holding her stomach. She almost rolled off the giant rabbit's back. Chapter 4959 Actually bullied my little sister. Zhou Yuan Ji was speechless as he looked at He Xinzhou, who was laughing so hard that her flowers were trembling. He thought to himself, "This fellow is really big-hearted." At this time, he still had the mood to laugh at her name. However, when he thought of Yun Chuzhi's domineering aura from before, he felt that he was just eating salt and worrying about nothing. She could do whatever she wanted to do. After all, she was a pervert. When Qi Dai heard Yun Chuzhi's words, he was naturally furious, especially when he saw Yun Chuzhi's silly cubs rolling on the ground in joy. He immediately became angry out of embarrassment. "Yun Chuzhou, I won't argue with you. Soon, you won't be able to laugh anymore. Go." Following Qi Dai's order, the people of the Divine Devil Hall swarmed forward. He Xinzhou had no choice but to summon the demonic beasts again. Yuan Ji saw this and said anxiously, "Why did you release them? Hurry up and become a pervert." "Yun Chuzhou, you are the one who is perverted, your whole family is perverted." She glanced at Yuan Ji and said sorrowfully, "I'm powerless now. You'd better seek your own fortune. Otherwise, if you offer me to them, you might still have a way to live." At this point, the guy's eyes lit up and he immediately blinked at Yuan Ji. Yuan Ji was blessed and immediately understood her meaning. He immediately pulled Yun Chuzhou down from the giant rabbit and shouted, "Stop! Or I will kill Yun Chuzhou. You will get nothing." Qi Dai was shocked and immediately asked his men to stop. Yuan Ji's men were dumbfounded. Was Lord Yuanji tired of living? He even dared to kidnap the female devil? Yun Shijia's dumb cuties were connected to her mind. They knew that Yuanji was acting, so they didn't move much. Yun Shujio shouted in exasperation, Yuanji, are you crazy? Let me go. Yuanji said coldly, if you don't do it for yourself, heaven and earth will destroy you. Yun Shujio, accept your fate. Yun Shujio thought to herself, TSK, this Yuanji was a good actor. Chi Dai frowned, if you hand Yun Shujio over to me, they'll let you guys leave. Yuanji sneered, how do I know if you're lying to me? How about this, I'll bring Yun Shujio out of the wilderness. When we reach the edge of the wilderness, I'll naturally hand her over to you guys. Chi Dai was stunned at first, then he sneered, if we reach the hinterland, these demonic beasts will recover their strength. Do you think I haven't seen through your little tricks? Go. Yun Shujio cursed inwardly. This Chi Dai was not stupid at all. This time, they were really going to be finished. Yun Shujio turned her head and saw Xue Wuji, who was dressed in red, walking towards them casually. Behind Xue Wuji was Di Baiming, whose face was as pale as a sheet of paper. And Feng followed behind him worriedly. Di Baiming's gaze met Yun Shijia's. Both of their eyes were filled with worry and heartache. Xue Wuji and the other two were hiding far away from here, but Di Baiming suddenly felt uneasy. He asked Xue Wuji to send a voice transmission talisman to Yun Shujio, but for some reason, it did not work. Di Baiming forced Xue Wuji and Enfeng to lead him to find Yun Shujio. Xue Wuji and Enfeng could not dissuade him, so they could only do as he said. Chi Dai was stunned when he saw Xue Wuji and the other two. Then, he said arrogantly, you came just in time, so that I don't have to waste my energy to find you. Go. Leave no one alive. Chapter 4960. Remember what I've told you before. Xue Wuji smiled wickedly. TSK, with just you? Today, I'll let you see how powerful this young master is. As Xue Wuji spoke, the spirit energy in his hand transformed into a huge skeleton. The skeleton charged straight towards Chi Dai. Although it was only a spirit energy skeleton, it emitted a terrifying pressure. Chi Dai's heart sank. He did not dare to be careless and immediately summoned his spiritual beast to fight with Xue Wuji. Although Yun Shijia's spiritual power was weaker, she still had good eyesight. She could tell that the purple-masked man was no match for Xue Wuji. However, the problem was that there were too many people. What should she do? At this moment, Di Baiming released a golden dragon from his spiritual beast pouch. The dragon charged towards the people of the Divine Devil Hall in a majestic manner. Yun Shujio was stunned. A little perverted dragon? This bastard's heart immediately felt a little sour. They were both divine beasts, but why were the white tiger and little bastard in his hands not so cool? Not to mention that there was a phoenix egg that had not hatched yet. When the cat cub and little bastard received Yun Shijia's spiritual sense, they immediately felt a little humiliated and immediately joined the battle. Yun Shujio knew that even so, due to the huge difference in numbers, her side would still suffer a crushing defeat. As expected, with the passage of time, Yun Shijia's side's defeat was obvious. Whether it was Xue Wuji or the stupid cuties, they were all injured to varying degrees. Puppet number 4 and puppet number 5 proposed to self-destruct again so that Yun Shujio could escape. Yun Shujio simply put them into her storage ring to prevent them from really self-destructing. Furthermore, there were too many people coming this time. Even if they self-destructed, it might not be of much use. This fellow was so anxious that she was spinning in circles. Not only did she not unleash her potential, she was also very weak due to using too much strength previously. Could it be that she was really going to die this time? Just as Yun Shujio was spinning in circles anxiously, Di Baiming grabbed her hand. The icy cold touch made Yun Shujio shiver. She turned her head and comforted him. Prince Charming, don't worry. I will become abnormal very soon. A bunch of rookies are no match for me. Di Biming kissed her forehead gently and said slowly, "Remember what I told you before. Don't worry about me." Before Yun Chuzhou could react to Di Biming's words, Di Biming let go of her hand. Then, he rushed to the battlefield like a white ray of light. Di Biming's ink-like hair turned white in an instant. He turned around and wanted to smile at Yun Chuzhou. However, before he could smile, he closed his eyes and fell to the ground. Yun Chuzhou's pupils dilated. She staggered and rushed to Di Biming. Her trembling hand reached towards Di Biming's nose, but there was no longer any breath. She shouted at the Guai Chao in her dantian, "Juice." Guai Chao had never seen Yun Chuzhou like this before. He did not dare to hesitate and quickly condensed a drop of liquid. Yun Chuzhou fed the liquid to Di Biming's mouth, but she realized that the liquid could not be swallowed. She leaned over and kissed Di Biming's cold lips, feeding the liquid to him. It was unknown if the Guai Chao's liquid had taken effect, but Di Biming's chest finally heaved slightly. Yun Chuzhou shouted at the Guai Chao again, "The liquid." Guai Chao had no choice but to squeeze out another drop of the liquid. Yun Chuzhou fed it to Di Biming again, but this time there was no obvious reaction. Chapter 49-61. You are not wrong. Guai Chao used his courage to convey the message to Yun Chuzhou. The gist of it was that it would be useless even if there was too much liquid. Although Yun Chuzhou did not understand Guai Chao's words, she could roughly guess Di Biming's situation. She hugged Di Biming and tears streamed down her face. "Prince Charming, I was wrong. I shouldn't have disobeyed you. If I didn't come here rashly, you wouldn't be like this. I thought everything was within my calculations. In reality, I was just pretending to be smart. I'm just an idiot. My Prince Charming, wake up. I'll listen to you in everything from now on. I won't mess around anymore." Shua Wuji saw that Yun Chuzhou was crying sadly and advised her, "Little sister Zhou, this isn't your fault. Even if you didn't come, if the people from the Divine Devil Hall found us, the facial paralysis would also be like this. Moreover, if you didn't kill so many people, even if the facial paralysis went crazy, he might not have been able to kill them all. So not only did you not do anything wrong, you even made a contribution." And Feng said from the side, "Yes, Miss Zhou. If it wasn't for you, we might have been found a few days ago. At that time, Your Excellency's health was even worse, so you didn't do anything wrong." However, Yun Chuzhou couldn't listen to him. When she saw Di Biming's silver hair and how his life was hanging by a thread, her heart was filled with guilt and self-blame. To be exact, she would rather feel guilty and self-blame. Only then would she be able to alleviate the fear and despair in her heart. She was afraid that Di Biming would never wake up again. She was afraid that Di Biming would really die just like that. A wave of dizziness struck her. Yun Chuzhou hugged Di Biming and fainted on the ground. Shua Wuji sighed. This pair of doomed lovebirds. He looked at Yuan Ji. "Let's leave this place first." Yuan Ji naturally did not have any objections. He did not even know what he should do now. In the end, Yuan Ji put the demonic beasts that were about to be frozen into ice sculptures into the spirit beast bags. Fortunately, he could put them into the spirit beast bags without recognizing them as his master. Otherwise, things would not be so easy. As for He Xinjia's dumb cuties, due to their high rank, he couldn't keep them even if he wanted to. However, he didn't dare to try. Therefore, the group headed towards the edge of the deep region. As long as they reached the hinterland, with these demon beasts, they could at least guarantee their lives. Half a day later, Yun Chuzhou finally woke up. Shua Wuji was afraid that she would go to the ends of the earth again, so he quickly advised, "Little sister Zhou, what I said before is true. You really didn't do anything wrong." Yun Chuzhou nodded numbly. Then, she bit her index finger with her mouth and dripped the blood into Di Biming's mouth. Although Yuan Ji did not understand why Yun Chuzhou fed Di Biming her own blood, he knew that their pavilion master would not be able to win Yun Chuzhou's heart no matter what. Di Biming's condition did not improve much. If it was not for the slight breathing, he would be no different from a dead person. After a while, Shui Wuji advised, "Little sister Jo, you have to pull yourself together. If not, you will also fall sick and your face will be paralyzed." Yun Shujo nodded, "I understand." Yuan Ji gathered his courage and said, "Be Miss Jo, since the Divine Devil Temple has already sent a wave of reinforcements, they might even send people over. We'd better hurry to the hinterland as soon as possible to avoid falling into a disadvantageous situation." He originally wanted to address her as Miss Jo, but in the end, he chose to address her as Enfeng. Chapter 4962 could only rely on acting cute. Hearing Yuan Ji's words, Yun Shujo nodded again. "Since that's the case, let's hurry up and move." Yuan Ji saw that Yun Shujo had changed from her usual carefree appearance, and he more or less sighed in his heart. He sighed and urged everyone to hurry up and move. When the silly cuties saw Yun Shujo's appearance, they all comforted her in their spiritual senses. Yun Shujo didn't say anything and put them all into her spirit beast pouch. The little dragon was now a homeless child, so she could only thicken her skin and enter Yun Shujo's spirit beast pouch. When Dog 2 saw the little dragon was brought in, it immediately said to Peach Blossom, "Female, don't blame me for not warning you. This little dragon is the worst. Don't be fooled by it." Peach Blossom said absent-mindedly, "Go away. I don't want to talk to you." Dog 2 immediately had a bad premonition, especially when it saw the little dragon telling Peach Blossom about its heroic deeds. This premonition became even stronger. It felt that the little dragon was very displeasing to the eye, so it was best to find a way to chase it out. However, even if it had 100 guts, it would not dare to offend Yun Shujo at this time. It rolled its dog eyes. If Di Biming, that evil star, woke up, the little lecherous dragon would naturally scram. However, how could it make Di Biming wake up faster? But Face thought for a long time but could not think of a way. However, it felt that it was necessary to gain a good impression of Yun Shujo. After all, it was now such a waste, and it could only rely on acting cute to live. "Little fairy, didn't your excellency say something to you before he fainted? Have you forgotten? He said that he wanted you to remember what he said to you before. Don't worry about him. Is he referring to the fact that he won't die?" But Face said eagerly. Yun Shujo was stunned when she heard that. She was too worried about Di Biming, so she forgot about that sentence. She remembered Di Biming's comforting smile before he fainted, and her tears flowed down again. He was afraid that she would be worried, and that was why he was like this. She could not let him down. She had to pull herself together and think of a way to let him recover as soon as possible. Thinking of this, Yun Shujo's mood was slightly better. Only then did she have the mood to think of other things. She asked Shui Wuji, "Brother Wuji, how did you find us?" Shui Wuji saw that Yun Shujo's condition was much better than before and immediately felt relieved. He said, "The facial paralysis felt uneasy. He asked me to send you a voice transmission talisman but it did not succeed, so he forced us to bring him to find you." Yun Shujo frowned slightly. The voice transmission talisman didn't work? How was this possible? She took out the voice transmission talisman and tried to send it to Shui Wuji, but it didn't work. Something was wrong. Shui Wuji had sent her a voice transmission talisman before, so why did it suddenly not work? At this moment, Yuan Ji said in horror, "Heaven, heaven, heaven." Everyone looked up when they heard that and saw countless huge rocks floating in the sky. Yun Shujo suddenly understood why the ground in the deep region was full of potholes and many rocks were scattered around. So that was how it came about. However, where did the rocks floating in the sky come from? However, the most important thing now was not to think about this, but how to avoid these stones. Otherwise, they would be smashed into minced meat. Yuan Ji took out a protective array. Although this protective array was useless against the attacks of the Divine Devil Hall, he felt that it was not a problem to block these stones. Chapter 4963. Go Wei Ba tale was going to amaze everyone. However, Yun Shujiao was not as optimistic as he was. The situation in the deep region was not recorded in the book, which meant that the last stone rain had happened a long time ago. Since it had happened a long time ago, there were still potholes on the ground, which meant that the power at that time was very strong. This kind of low-grade protective array could not stop it at all. Therefore, she asked everyone to set up a spiritual energy shield inside the protective array to prevent any accidents. Yuan Ji felt that Yun Shujiao was overdoing it, but he still ordered his men to do as she said. Just when everyone set up the spiritual energy shield, the stones came crashing down. When the stones were getting closer and closer, everyone was shocked to find that the stones were too big. It was as big as a small mountain. The protective array was smashed by a big rock and immediately broke. Fortunately, everyone held on to their spiritual energy shields, or else they would have been smashed. Yuan Ji had a face full of lingering fear. Fortunately, he listened to the female devil's words, or else it would have been bad. He thought that it would be over, but who would have thought that the rocks that had been smashed into the deep pit would float up again and suddenly fall down again? Yuan Ji, this was because they were afraid that they would not die. Although their spiritual energy barrier had once again withstood the giant rock, looking at the giant rock that had once again floated up, everyone's heart could not help but be shrouded in the shadow of death. From the looks of it, these giant rocks were repeating themselves and had no intention of stopping. If they continued to passively use their spiritual energy barrier to support themselves, they would definitely be dragged to death in the end. Yun Shujiao thought for a moment and said, "There's still a day's journey to the edge of this place. We can't just sit here and wait for death. We must hurry and leave this place." "Little sister Jiao, what you said makes sense. But what should we do if these huge rocks hit us?" Shui Wuji said with a troubled expression. "Well, release our spiritual beasts in batches and let them float above our heads. Once a huge rock falls, well, let them work together to slow down the speed of the huge rock's descent. This way, we'll completely use the time we have to dodge," Yun Shujiao said. When everyone heard this, they felt that this was a good idea. Hence, they split into two batches and transformed into spiritual beasts to block the huge rock. Even though the huge rock was huge, the combined power of several spiritual beasts could slow down the speed of the huge rock's descent, allowing everyone to dodge. Yun Shujiao took out some medicinal pills to replenish their spirit power. They could hold on for a while more, but they still couldn't hold on any longer. Shui Wuji suddenly slapped his thigh. Little sister Jiao, why didn't you release De Hua? De Hua's strength isn't bad, not to mention other things. Moreover, you're also abnormal. You can hold on for a while longer." Yun Shujiao then remembered that Shui Wuji still did not know about De Hua's disappearance. She said with a wry smile, "Brother Wuji, De Hua is missing. I can only transform into a useless Goei Batsao." Hearing Yun Shujiao belittle it, the Guai Chao in her dantian immediately became angry. However, even though it was very angry, the Guai Chao's leaves were half dead and drooping. This was because the 2 drops of juice given to Yun Shujiao were transformed from its essence, so its vitality was greatly damaged. Guai Chao snorted coldly in its heart. Even if its vitality was greatly damaged now, it was still of great use, alright? Stop talking nonsense and quickly let it out. Go Wei Ba tale was going to amaze everyone. Chapter 4964 was about to become a spiritual beast. Although Shui Wuji felt that it was unkind to laugh at this moment, he still laughed when he heard that Yun Shujia's spiritual beast was a Goei Batsao. Yun Shujiao glared at him fiercely. How could he still laugh at this time? Shui Wuji forced himself to stop laughing and said curiously, "Little sister Jiao, I've never seen a spiritual beast like Goei Batsao. Let me see it." Yun Shujiao wanted to ignore him, but she just happened to feel the unwillingness of Goei Batsao. Although she didn't have much hope for Goei Batsao, she still transformed her spiritual power into a huge purple Goei Batsao. Shui Wuji stared at Goei Batsao with his mouth agape. It really was Goei Batsao. Yun Shujiao said helplessly, "See? It's this useless thing. Before Xue Wuji could say anything, another huge rock began to fall from the sky. Everyone hurriedly released their spiritual beasts to stall for time. At this moment, a shocking scene happened. The huge rock actually stopped in the air. To be exact, it was held up by 2 leaves of Goei Batsao. After a dead silence, Xue Wuji opened his mouth and said, "Little sister Jo, is this the useless thing you said?" Yuan Ji and the rest of the spiritual beasts could only delay the falling of the giant rock for a few breaths, but this Goei Batsao could hold the giant rock with only 2 leaves. If it was useless, then wouldn't their spiritual beasts be useless in a pile of trash? Yun Shuzhou was also very surprised, but this guy was in a low mood now. She said indifferently, "It's only one advantage. It's okay." Goei Batsao angrily threw the huge rock to the side. It was so awesome that it actually said it was passable. This black-hearted wretched girl must be deliberately belittling it. Fortunately, Xue Wuji was very supportive. He shouted and shouted, "Little sister Jo, you're too modest. How is this passable? My spiritual skeleton doesn't have as much strength as it does. I think this Goei Bakeo's strength is even greater than Dehua's." The blade of grass on the top of Goei Batsao trembled. It felt that Xue Wuji was a good talker. If not for the fact that it had suffered a great loss of vitality, TSK, it would be very capable. Yun Shuzhou nodded her head perfunctorily and used her spiritual sense to speak to Guai Chao. "Since you have such great strength, I'll leave the matter of the stone to you. You don't have to throw the stone to the side. You just need to slow down its falling speed so that it won't be unable to hold on any longer." Guai Chao knew that Yun Shuzhou was in a bad mood, so although it was not praised and felt a little aggrieved, it still shook its leaves to express its agreement. Only then did Yun Shuzhou realize that the color of the Guai Chao had dimmed a lot, and its leaves were also drooping. Knowing that it was caused by 2 drops of juice, she felt a little guilty. Hearing that, the little bit of grievance in Guai Chao's heart instantly disappeared. This smelly girl still had a conscience. At first, Yuan Ji was worried that although Goei Batsao was powerful, it wouldn't be able to last for long. However, he didn't expect that Goei Batsao was very smart. When there was no huge rock falling, its body would become very small. When the huge rock showed signs of floating again, it would become bigger again. This way, it would save a lot of spirit energy. Yuan Ji thought to himself, what kind of master has what kind of spiritual beast? This Goei Batsao is about to become a spirit. Chapter 4965, Goei Batsao from the treasury. With the addition of Goei Batsao, everyone finally left the deep region and entered the hinterland. Everyone let out a long breath. This time, it could be said that they had narrowly escaped death. Although they could not guarantee their safety when they reached the hinterland, no matter what, when they reached the hinterland, at least the strength of the demonic beasts would recover. Even if they encountered people from the Divine Devil Hall, they would not be too passive. Yun Shuzhou also let out a long breath. She asked Yuan Ji to release the demonic beasts and gave them a lot of pills to help them recover. Yun Shuzhou thought about it and decided to rest in the hinterland for a period of time. After all, she still had the help of the demonic beasts in the hinterland. If she left the wilderness and was ambushed by the Divine Devil Hall, it would be a disaster. Moreover, there were mushrooms in the hinterland that informed her, so she could make arrangements in time. Yuan Ji and the others had already boarded the pirate ship, so they could only listen to Yun Shujia's arrangements. Yun Shuzhou placed Di Baiming in the tent. Seeing that his condition was still not improving, she bit her finger and dripped fresh blood into his mouth. What she did not notice was that there was a small stalk of spirit energy Goei Batsao lying on top of her head. It was only the size of a pinky cap. If she did not pay attention, she would not have noticed it at all. Goei Batsao had learned its lesson this time. Previously, when it was blocking the giant rock, it had deliberately kept a lot of spirit energy. This way, even if Yun Shuzhou cancelled the supply of spirit energy, it could still maintain it for a period of time. Moreover, it had made itself so small, so it could last longer. Although its main body could not show off in Yunchujius Dantian, it was still pretty good to be able to walk outside in such a state. Of course, Yunchujo did not know about all of this, because she had never heard of any family's spiritual beasts that would amass a small treasury. At this time, Shui Wuji called Yunchujo out from outside, and Yunchujo could only get up and leave the tent. As the tent's door was relatively low, it stuck Yunchuji's hair, and the Goei Batsao on her hair lost its balance and fell to the ground. Goei Batsao wanted to chase after Yunchujo, but it was afraid of being discovered, so it decided to stay in the tent for now. It jumped to Di Baiming's side and looked at Di Baiming, who was in an extremely miserable state. Its mouth twitched in its heart. Damn it! How did it threaten it previously? It thought that Go Weiba was afraid of him. Pooey. Go Weiba was not afraid of anyone. At this moment, Di Baiming's Dantian began to emit a faint golden light, instantly enveloping his entire body in a layer of golden light. What a close call. What a close call. It would never speak nonsense again. The people outside the tent knew nothing about what was happening inside. Shui Wuji called Yunchujo out to give her some food. Ever since Di Baiming's accident, Yunchujo had hardly eaten anything. He was afraid that she wouldn't be able to hold on, so he specifically called her out. Yunchuji's mood had already calmed down a lot, so she did not reject him. She took the food and started eating. Shui Wuji saw her like this and heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Little sister Jo, facial paralysis is a pervert. You were frozen for such a long time before, but you were still alive and kicking. So relax, you should eat and drink. Otherwise, when he wakes up and sees that you are very haggard, he might vent his anger on me and the little lunatic. Yunchujo nodded, I got it. Shui Wuji shook his head. Little sister Jo was completely different from her usual self. There was not a trace of a smile on her face. It seemed that unless it was Di Baiming who woke up with a paralyzed face, she would always be like this. Chapter 4966. The smartest grass. Yunchujo hastily ate something and then returned to the tent. However, she was surprised to find that Di Baiming's complexion was better and his pulse was stronger than before. Yunchujo called Shui Wuji and Enfeng in to check. Both of them were very happy when they came in. Little sister Jo, how is it? I told you that this facial paralysis would be fine, right? I think he will wake up soon. Don't worry, Shui Wuji advised. Yunchujo nodded her head vigorously, and a smile finally appeared on her face. Shui Wuji and Enfeng finally heaved a sigh of relief when they saw Yunchujo like this. Goei Batsao, who was hiding in the corner of the tent, sneakily looked at Shui Wuji and Enfeng, hoping that they would leave as soon as possible so that it could find an opportunity to make a new home on Hei Xinjia's hair. Shui Wuji suddenly looked in its direction, almost scaring the Guai Chao to death. Shui Wuji frowned suspiciously and glanced around a few more times. He only looked away when he did not find anything wrong. Goei Batsao was so scared that its leaves drooped down. It was so close, so close. It seemed that it had to be more careful. Shui Wuji was not that stupid. Shui Wuji and Enfeng comforted him for a while before they got up and left. Yunchujo held Di Baiming's right hand and pressed her face against it. Although Di Baiming's hand was cold to the bone, she still could not bear to let go. Only by feeling his pulse could she calm down. Goei Batsao had been watching from the corner, and a strange emotion arose in her heart. She could not explain it clearly. Was this the so-called love? Yunchujo held Di Baiming's hand and fell asleep in a daze. She hadn't slept for several nights in a row before she fell asleep. A thought flashed through her mind. Why was she not as tired as before these few days? However, because of the drowsiness, she didn't have time to think carefully before falling asleep. Goei Batsao saw that Yunchujo was asleep and immediately jumped out from the corner. Now, in this tent, a living dead and a sleeping person was its world. It could show off as much as it wanted. Ha ha ha. Go-Wei Batsao felt that it was most likely the smartest grass in the world. Otherwise, why would it come up with such a good idea like a clone? It was not as stupid as the Great Void Mirror and the Black Bead. It had been cooped up in its dantian all this while, and it wanted to jump outside to its heart's content. Go-Wei Ba hopped around for a while. Just as it was about to hide in Yun Shujia's hair again, it saw strands of white mist rising above Di Baiming's dantian, forming a complicated pattern. It went straight for Di Baiming's glabella. Go-Wei Batsao subconsciously felt that the smell of the white mist was familiar. Wasn't it the thing that it had absorbed from Di Baiming's body? Even if it used the grass leaf to think, it knew that this white seal was not a good thing. Go-Wei Batsao almost subconsciously rushed towards the white mist, and the main body in the dantian also started to tremble violently, wanting to wake Yun Shujiu up quickly. The white mist was hit by Go-Wei Batsao, and the pattern dimmed quite a bit, but it still hid between Di Baiming's brows. Go-Wei Batsao also dissipated due to this hit with all its strength. Chapter 4967. Is she your sister? Yun Shujiu was awakened by the pain. She looked around blankly and did not find anything unusual. She used her spiritual sense to look at the strange grass. She saw that the strange grass was waving its leaves vigorously. The emotions that were transmitted to her were also very anxious. However, it could not speak. Therefore, Yun Shujiu could not guess what the strange grass was trying to say even after guessing for a long time. The Guai Chao could not help but feel a little discouraged. Now, it actually wished that it could speak. Forget it. Since the little girl could not understand what it meant, then she would just watch the follow-up. In any case, the white seal had been broken by it a lot, so it probably would not have much of an effect. Yun Shujiu saw that the Guai Chao was no longer tormenting it. In addition to the sleepiness, she did not take this small episode seriously. The next morning, Yun Shujiu, who was sleeping, felt a little cold. She suddenly opened her eyes and was pleasantly surprised to see that Di Baiming had actually woken up and was looking at her. Yun Shujiu thought that she was dreaming. She rubbed her eyes and realized that Di Baiming had really woken up. She immediately sat up happily. Idol, you're awake? Are you feeling unwell? Yun Shujiu wanted to hold Di Baiming's hand and check his pulse. However, before her hand touched Di Baiming's hand, she heard a bone-chilling voice, "Scram." Yun Shujiu was stunned. Scram? She looked at Di Baiming and met a pair of bone-chilling eyes. There was no warmth or emotion in those eyes. It was as if she was looking at a stranger. Yun Shujiu felt that Di Baiming might have just woken up and was a little confused. She said patiently, "Prince Charming, the people from the Divine Devil Hall have been killed by you. We are safe for the time being." Di Baiming frowned slightly. Divine Devil Hall? That's right. I was surrounded by the people from the Divine Devil Hall. But, who are you? I am Little Jiu. Did you forget about me? Yun Shujiu said half-jokingly. I don't care if you're Little Jiu or Little Hachi. I've never had a woman by my side. Get lost. Di Baiming said coldly. Yun Shujiu was really dumbfounded. What happened to the gigolo? She was afraid of provoking Di Baiming. After all, he had just woken up, so she said, "Okay, I'll leave now. I'll let Enfong come in." After saying that, Yun Shujiu walked out of the tent and said to Shui Wuji and Enfong, "The gigolo is awake. You guys go in and take a look. He woke up so soon. I told you that the facial paralysis was a pervert." Shui Wuji saw that although Di Baiming's hair was still silver, the color of blood on his face had recovered a lot. He immediately smiled and said, "You're finally awake. Are you all right?" Di Baiming faintly acknowledged. Shui Wuji was already used to his cold appearance, so he did not mind it. He smacked his lips a few times and said, "You don't know that little sister Jo was worried sick when you were unconscious. Di Biming frowned slightly. Little sister Jo? That little Jo is your sister? Why haven't you mentioned it before? Hurry up and tell her to leave. I get annoyed whenever I see women. Shui Wuji, oh God, was there something wrong with his ears? What did he just hear? And Feng, who was beside him, was also dumbfounded. Did their lord lose his memory? Shui Wuji swallowed his saliva and said with difficulty, You don't remember little sister Jo? Di Biming snorted coldly. Your sister, what do I remember for? Chapter 4968, Are you serious? You really don't remember little sister Jo? Shui Wuji asked incredulously. Di Biming said impatiently, What little sister Jo, little 8, hurry up and let her leave. Shui Wuji was dumbfounded. He probed a few more times and finally came to a conclusion. Di Biming had lost his memory. To be more precise, he had only forgotten Yunchujo, but he remembered everything else clearly. Shui Wuji and Enfeng looked at each other. It was over. This person with facial paralysis had lost his memory. Little ninth sister was probably going to cry to death. Shui Wuji saw that Di Biming looked a little tired, so he did not dare to say anything more. He let him continue to rest, and then he left the tent with Enfeng. Shui Wuji saw Yunchujo standing by the side alone, and his heart was very bitter. He walked over and said, Little sister Jo, you should know, right? Yunchujo did not have any obvious expression on her face. Know what? That facial paralysis, he lost his memory. Shui Wuji said through gritted teeth. Yunchuji's eyes widened. Are you sure that he really lost his memory? Shui Wuji nodded and sighed, Little sister Jo, don't be too sad. He may have lost his memory due to his injuries. However, I believe that this is only temporary. He will remember it very soon. He thinks that you are my sister. Then, you should stay in this identity for now. Shui Wuji's words stopped abruptly because he saw a strange smile on Yunchuji's face. Shui Wuji could not help but shiver. Little sister Jo must have gone mad from the shock. And Feng, who was standing at the side, also looked at Yunchujo worriedly. Miss Jo must have been too upset, so she must have been upset. Little sister Jo, are you okay? Shui Wuji asked in a trembling voice. Yunchujo shook her head. I'm fine, as long as he wakes up. But, did he lose his memory? I know you're upset. If you're really upset, just cry. Shui Wuji felt that Yunchujo must be pretending to be calm. How pitiful. Yunchujo looked at Shui Wuji in confusion. Why should I be upset? The facial paralysis has lost his memory. He doesn't remember you. How can you not be upset? Little sister Jo, don't worry. When that facial paralysis regains his memory, it'll help you beat him up. Shui Wuji said angrily. However, Yunchujo giggled, which made Shui Wuji and Enfeng's hair stand on end. It's over, he's really gone mad. Yunchujo stopped laughing and said with a chuckle, All I want is for the pretty boy to be safe and sound. Now that he has woken up, I'm more than happy. How can I be sad? But, he has lost his memory. He doesn't remember you. Shui Wuji felt that Yunchujo must be forcing herself to be strong, so he said worriedly. Yunchujo shrugged nonchalantly. Forget it then. At most, I'll let him fall in love with me again. What's the big deal? Shui Wuji and Feng, just as the two of them were in a daze, they saw Yunchujo rubbing her hands together. By the way, I like to see the pretty boy being flirted with by me. It's not bad to be able to experience it again. Shui Wuji and Enfeng saw Yunchuji's eager look and immediately fed their worries and sympathy to the dogs. How would such a pervert need their worries and sympathy? And that facial paralysis, it was probably bad luck. While the two of them were still in a daze, Yunchujo entered the tent. Di Baiming was resting with his eyes closed. When he saw Yun Chuzhou enter, impatience appeared on his face. Didn't your brother tell you to leave? Yun Chuzhou smiled at him. Let's get to know each other again. My name is Yun Chuzhou, please advise me. Chapter 4969. Not ugly little girl. When Di Baiming saw Yun Chuzhou's bright smile, the word, scram, that was on the tip of his tongue could not be said out loud. He frowned. Since you're Shui Wuji's sister, why is his surname Shui and your surname Yun? Yun Chuzhou said with a smile, because he is my sworn brother, not my biological brother. Di Baiming snorted, whether it is my biological brother or sworn brother, this is not a place for you to stay. Leave quickly. Yun Chuzhou smiled and said, okay, I will leave now. After saying that, Yun Chuzhou turned around and left the tent. Di Baiming was stunned. He originally thought that the not-so-ugly little girl would pester him, but she actually left just like that? However, this kind of thought disappeared in a flash. She was just an insignificant person, there was no need to waste his mind. Yun Chuzhou went outside. Shui Wuji and Enfeng saw her faint smile and were completely relieved. As for Yuan Ji and his subordinates, ever since they arrived at the hinterland, they had tactfully stationed themselves about 2 miles away from them, so they did not know what happened here. Yun Chuzhou took out a recliner and lay down on it. She chewed on melon seeds as she pondered over her next plan. She did not care about the gigolo's amnesia. The gigolo could fall in love with her again after reincarnating, not to mention his amnesia. The most important thing now was the Divine Devil Hall. The Divine Devil Hall had lost more than 5,000 people this time, so they would probably send reinforcements soon. They had to make preparations early. It would be best if they could get some reinforcements. However, she was a piece of trash in the heavy cloud continent. Where could they get reinforcements? The guy thought for a moment and took out the voice transmission talisman of the Lan family's patriarch. Patriarch, it's been a long time. Have you missed me? Unfortunately, the Lan family's patriarch ignored her. Hei Xinzhou did not know what it meant to be reserved and what it meant to be embarrassed. She sent another message. Patriarch, I've killed more than 5,000 people of the Divine Devil Hall. Shouldn't you reward me? This time, the voice transmission talisman quickly received a reply. The old ancestor of the Lan family gritted his teeth and said, reward your ass. Yun Chuzhou, she did not know that the old ancestor of the Lan family was in a terrible state. He wished that he could strangle her to death. Due to the interference of the Divine Devil Hall, the Lan family was besieged from all sides. Naturally, he did not have a good tone. Patriarch, I take it that what you said just now was a compliment. Well, are you in a bad mood? Who provoked you? Tell me, and it'll help you take care of her. Hei Xinzhou sent another message with a smile. This time, the Lan family's patriarch replied unusually quickly. There was only one word, you. Yun Chuzhou, this fellow touched his nose guiltily and said slyly, old ancestor, I'm trapped in the wilderness and can't get out. Please send 1,000 people to save me. This time, the old ancestor of the Lan family replied even faster. There was only one word, scram. Yun Chuzhou angrily threw the voice transmission talisman into her storage ring. This damned old fox. He really didn't give her any face at all. The Lan family wouldn't be able to do anything. Could it be that they could only sit here and watch? Hei Xinzhou chewed on the ground full of melon seeds and didn't come up with any good ideas. However, because Di Baiming had turned the situation around, other things were nothing to her. She would find a way sooner or later. Chapter 4970 was a little unhappy thinking of Di Baiming. Yun Chuzhou suddenly remembered that Guai Chao had some abnormal behavior. Could it be that Guai Chao knew something? She quickly used her divine sense to communicate with Guai Chao. However, because Guai Chao could not speak and Di Baiming's situation was more complicated, Yun Chuzhou could not guess what Guai Chao meant even after guessing for a long time. She could only guess that Di Baiming did not lose his memory for no reason. Something must have happened. Soon, a day passed. During this period, Yun Shujo did not enter the tent again. Enfeng would go in to check on Di Baiming from time to time. When Enfeng went in for the first time, Di Baiming thought it was Yun Shujo. He was about to scold her when he realized it was Enfeng, so he swallowed his words. After that, every time someone entered, Di Baiming would open his eyes and take a look. When he saw that it was Enfeng who entered every time, he felt unhappy for some reason. 2 days had passed in a row, and Di Baiming was able to sit up. Moreover, he had more and more time to wake up. When Enfeng entered again, Di Baiming hesitated for a moment and then asked stiffly, "Has Xue Wuji's sister left?" Enfeng's eyes twitched. How did His Majesty determine that the 9th Miss was the younger sister of the young master of Wuji? Well, she could be considered a younger sister. He told the truth, the 9th Miss did not leave. After all, the Divine Devil Hall must have set up an ambush outside. If she left rashly, it would be a disaster. Di Baiming's expression immediately turned ugly. Enfeng was afraid that he would get angry, so he quickly said, "Your Majesty, the 9th Miss came to the wilderness to save us. Please let her stay here." Di Baiming impatiently waved his hand. Enfeng saw that he did not say anything to let Yun Shujo leave, so he let out a sigh of relief and left. However, Enfeng never expected that the reason why a certain supremacy's expression was ugly was not because Yun Shujo did not leave, but because he felt that since the not-so-ugly girl did not leave, why did she not come to pester him again? Humph. Of course, he did not want to be pestered by her. He just felt that it was obvious that she had said, "Please instruct me," before, but she did not show up after that. It was really hypocritical. Yun Shujo did not know what a certain someone was thinking. Over the past 2 days, this fellow had been trying to think of a way to get out of the predicament, and on the other hand, he was trying to think of a way to appease those demonic beasts. After all, a portion of the demonic beasts in the deep region had lost their lives previously. Hei Xingjiu was afraid that these demonic beasts would be dissatisfied with her. As for the methods of appeasing them, they were nothing more than pills and praises. Of course, this fellow had been sending telepathic messages to the Lan clan's ancestor non-stop for the past 2 days. He did not care whether the ancestor replied or not. "Ancestor, blood is thicker than water. Your blood is flowing in my body. Old ancestor, as long as you send someone to save me, I promise to repay you with every drop of water. This is a business that will definitely make a profit." Royal City, Lan family's ancestral residence. The old ancestor of the Lan family received Hei Xingjia's voice transmission talisman again. He said to the masked elder who was standing by the side with his hands hanging down, "I've never seen such a thick-skinned person. She has caused so much trouble, yet she still has the face to beg me to save her. Master, what do you plan to do next?" The masked old man asked. He felt that if his master really did not plan to save her, she would have blocked the sound transmission talisman long ago. How could she still receive the message from Yun Shujo? Chapter 4971 was a clear path. The ancestor of the Lan family took a sip of tea to calm his anger and said, "Now, because of the Shinma Hall's mischief, the Mu family, Zhuang family, and Qi family have formed an alliance and invaded the Lan family's territory. If I recklessly send the main force to the wilderness, I'm afraid that our territory will be seized by the other 3 families. Therefore, this person must not be sent." The old man was a little puzzled. "Then you plan to ignore Yun Shujo? Let her die on her own?" "Master, to say something that should not be said, this Yun Shujo killed 5,000 people of the Divine Devil Hall with only 40 people. Such courage and strategy are even more suitable for that matter than young Master Luo Chen." The Lan family's ancestor did not have any displeased expression. "What you said makes sense. I have the same consideration, but there is indeed no way to free up manpower. However, it's not convenient for our Lan family to send people over, but I will show her the way." The old man was stunned. What way? The old ancestor of the Lan family put down the teacup and said slowly, Zen sect. Zen sect? This? Why would the Zen sect help Yunchujo? The old man asked in disbelief. This is not within our consideration. I only need to give the little girl a hint. The rest will depend on her ability, the old ancestor said in an unfathomable manner. The old man was still a little puzzled. Master, since you have already made up your mind, why didn't you tell Yunchujo when she asked for help 2 days ago? The Lan family's old ancestor snorted coldly. This troublemaker has caused so much trouble. I'll make her anxious and teach her a lesson. The old man, Master, is it really okay for you to be so childish? After the ancestor of the Lan family finished speaking, he also felt a little embarrassed. He immediately took out the voice transmission talisman and said coldly to Yunchujo, the Lan family can't take care of themselves right now, so they can't spare anyone to save you. However, the Zen sect is not too far from the wilderness. You can ask the Zen sect for help. On the other side, Hei Shinjo, who was grumbling and cursing the ancestor of the Lan family, had her eyes lit up when she received the voice transmission talisman. That's right, there were also those old monks from the Zen sect. Humph. This old fox still had some conscience and knew how to show her the way. However, if she were to ask for help in a straightforward manner, those old monks would definitely say that the monks would jump out of the 3 realms and not reject her in the 5 elements, so she had to think of a way. Yunchujo blinked her eyes and her gaze fell on the demon sky bell and the wooden fish on her wrist. She suddenly had an idea. Although she didn't have the voice transmission talisman of Master Wu, she had the voice transmission talisman of a master, so she took out the voice transmission talisman and said, Master Li, Master Liaowu, Master Li. Master Li, I intercepted the dawn bell and the sunset wooden fish from the purple-masked man of the divine devil hall in the wilderness. Do you still want them? If you don't want them, I'll take them as my own. A quarter of an hour later, a master's anxious voice came from the voice transmission talisman, yes. Yes. Of course, Master Li. As long as you can give the dawn bell and the sunset wooden fish to our Zen sect, we will agree to any conditions. Yunchujo snapped her fingers and suppressed the insidiousness in her heart. She said, Master Li, don't you know me well? How can a kind person like me take advantage of the situation? Don't worry, the dawn bell and 11 won wooden fish are yours. However, the people of the Divine Devil Hall are guarding outside the Wild Hope Wilderness, so it's best for your Zen sect to send more people to collect them. It doesn't need too many people, just 10,000 people will do. Chapter 4972 deserved to be bullied for the rest of his life. A moment later, Master Li replied, Almsgiver Yun, let me get this straight. This time, our Zen sect will help you get out of danger. Take it as a reward for breaking the dawn bell and Shiwan's wooden fish. If you go back on your words, then don't blame us for being merciless. Yunchujo pursed her lips. This old monk was not stupid, but it was true. The Zen sect also had spies, so they naturally knew a thing or two about the situation in the wilderness. This guy picked up the voice transmission talisman and replied, no problem. We have a deal. Well, come quickly, or I won't be able to hold on. After hearing the affirmative reply from a Master Li, Yunchujo put the voice transmission talisman into her storage ring. But Face asked eagerly, Little Fairy, do you really intend to return the demon sky bell and the little wooden fish to the Zen sect? Yunchujo curled the corners of her mouth and asked, what do you think? But Face suddenly laughed strangely, Little Fairy, you are getting worse and worse. Yunchujo ignored Butt Face. She thought to herself that she had not flirted with the pretty boy for the past 2 days. Now that things had come to a head, it was time to flirt with him. So, the guy entered the tent. Di Biming's condition gradually improved. Although he could not stand up yet, he could still sit up. He was currently sitting cross-legged in meditation so that he could recover as soon as possible. When he heard someone enter, he thought it was still Feng, so he did not open his eyes. Yun Shujo did not speak either. She sat on the ground and watched Di Baiming cultivate with a smile. Di Baiming felt her gaze and frowned slightly. He opened his eyes. When he saw that it was Yun Shujo, his expression immediately became even colder. Who let you in? Get out. Yun Shujo ignored him. Instead, she took out a spirit fruit and started munching on it. Di Baiming's expression turned even uglier. Didn't you hear what I said? Do you want me to slap you out? Yun Shujo took a few bites of the spirit fruit and said leisurely, you made a mistake. This tent is mine. You're the one who took over the magpie's nest. Di Baiming's face froze. This was her tent? No wonder the pillow and quilt had a faint fragrance. And Foam heard this and quickly entered the tent. He thought to himself, what's wrong with you? Help me leave immediately. I don't want to stay here anymore, Di Baiming said with a stiff face. And Foam was dumbfounded. Your Excellency, I didn't bring a tent with me. Besides, isn't Miss Jo's tent good? Why do you want to move out? I asked you to help me, so be it. Stop talking nonsense. Di Baiming's tone became cold. And Foam could only go forward and help Di Baiming up. However, he heard Yun Shuji's careless voice, TSK, don't tell me you don't dare to stay here anymore? Are you afraid that he'll do something to this tent? You're getting more and more cowardly. Hearing that, Di Baiming snorted coldly. You're thinking too much. I just don't want to stay here anymore. Is that so? Why do I feel that you're too cowardly to stay here? Are you afraid that he'll force you to sleep with me in the middle of the night? Yun Shujo revealed a malicious smile. Di Baiming looked at Yun Shuji's slightly provocative gaze and immediately shook off Foam's hand. Why are you helping me? Get out. Foam's heart felt like it was bickering with a dog. He was the one who asked him to help her, all right? Now it was his fault. He deserved to be bullied by Miss Jo for the rest of his life. Chapter 4973, You Are Actually a Beast dressed in clothes. And Foam was speechless as he left the room. He felt that his actions were a little childish, so he decided to ignore Yun Shujo and continue to meditate. He wanted to kick Yun Shujo out, but this was her tent, so he didn't seem to have the right to kick her out. Forget it, if she was willing to stay, he would just ignore her. Hence, the two of them stayed in the same room without saying a word. Di Baiming sat cross-legged and cultivated. At first, Yun Shujo was still sitting and eating the spirit fruit. Later, she felt sleepy and decided to lie down on the blanket and fall asleep. These 2 days, she had been thinking of a way to get out of this and did not sleep much. Now that she was finally confident, she naturally fell asleep. At first, a certain someone was still focused on cultivating. Later, his gaze could not help but fall on Yun Shuji's sleeping face. A certain someone's mental activity was as follows: this woman, she actually fell asleep just like that. Is she usually so casual? She actually fell asleep just like that in front of a man. She even drooled when she slept. How ugly. She did not even cover herself with the blanket. Is she stupid? A certain someone subconsciously picked up the blanket and wanted to cover Yun Shujo, but his hands stopped in midair. He didn't know this ugly girl, so why did he cover her with the blanket? So, a certain someone threw the blanket in his hand to the side. After a moment, he picked up the blanket again, thought about it, and threw it to the side. After repeating it a few times, a certain someone still covered Yun Shujo with the blanket. I was just afraid that this ugly girl would become sick and drag everyone down. Yes, that's right. Guai Chao and his Dantian had been paying attention to the situation outside. When he saw the actions of a certain someone, he snorted coldly in his heart. This fiend should be thanking Go Wei Ba. If it had not diluted the white seal, his memories of the stinky girl would definitely have been sealed tightly. How would he still retain his instinctive good impression of the stinky girl? After it was done, it left. It hid itself and its name. This was the true portrayal of Go Weiba Dog Tail. As Di Baiming's injuries had not fully recovered, he was very tired after cultivating for a while. Therefore, he lay down too. However, he deliberately lay far away from Hei Shinjo. He slept until the next morning. Di Baiming felt that he had not slept so peacefully for a long time. He opened his eyes and froze. That was because he and Yun Shujo were lying under the same blanket. Yun Shujo was in his arms, and his hand was on her waist. It was obvious that he had slept with her for the whole night. How was this possible? Why did he sleep with this wretched girl for the whole night? He took a closer look and realized that there was no change in his position. It was obvious that this ugly girl had thrown herself into his arms. That must be it. Taking advantage of the fact that his body had not fully recovered and his vigilance was lower, that ugly girl shamelessly came over. It was really... He had to teach her a good lesson. He had to let her know what it meant to be shameless and what it meant for a man and a woman to not be intimate so that she would not pester him. Thinking of this, a certain honored guest planned to push Hei Shinjo away and then teach her a fair lesson. Just as a certain someone's hand was about to land on Yun Shuji's body, Yun Shujo woke up. She looked at the situation in front of her in a daze and started sobbing. You. Good for you, Di Baiming. I didn't expect you to be such a beast. You actually took advantage of me. I can't live anymore. A certain someone. Chapter 4974, It's clearly you. Before a certain someone could finish his sentence, Yun Shujo interrupted him. Woo, you're a human with a beast's heart. You're still trying to quibble? If I didn't wake up in time, what would you have done? Are you going to? Woo, I'm too ashamed to face anyone. I'm trying to, look, you even admitted it yourself. You just wanted to have an affair with me. I thought you were an aloof and holy Prince Charming, but it turns out you're a pervert. You're not what? You still want to quibble? I clearly didn't cover myself with the blanket when I was asleep. Did this blanket grow legs on me? You're clearly the one who coveted my beauty and wanted to take advantage of me. Shameless. Di Baiming was so angry that his face turned red. He had clearly not done anything, so how could he be labeled as a pervert? He suddenly caught a glimpse of the cunning in Yun Shuji's eyes and immediately understood that she was doing it on purpose. He was so angry that his head was buzzing. This ugly girl was too crafty. His body was already very weak, and with such a strong breath, he actually fainted from anger. Hey Shinjo, heaven and earth, she didn't say anything? Why did he faint from anger? This guy quickly approached Di Baiming. Just as he was about to bite his finger and feed him some blood, a dazzling white light flashed, and Di Baiming was no longer on the ground. Instead, there was an unconscious little silver snake. Hey Shinjo, oh my god. She had made the gigolo turn into a snake. Fortunately, this had happened a few times in the past. Hei Shinjo was not too surprised. After thinking about it, it was not bad for the gigolo to turn into a snake. This way, it would be easier for her to protect him when he broke out of the encirclement. Moreover, she was going back to the Lan family. Neither the old fox nor Lan Luochen would take in the gigolo. Now that he had turned into a snake, it was much more convenient. However, she still had to put on a show in front of Yuan Ji. And Feng looked at the silver snake on the ground and looked at Yun Shujo with a complicated expression. Miss Jo, what did you do to us? Yun Shujo touched her nose guiltily. Look at what you said. What can I do to him? He became a snake because he felt unworthy of being a human. The amnesiac snake, which had just woken up, choked and fainted again. And Feng's heart was filled with tears of sympathy for his venerable self. He had thought that his venerable self had lost his memory, and Miss Jo would be in so much pain that she wished she could die. Who would have thought that his venerable self was the one in so much pain? Yun Shujo told Shui Wuji and Enfeng about her plan. The two of them also felt that Beiming turning into a snake was the safest way to follow Yun Shujo back to the Lan family, so they nodded in agreement. Thus, Yuan Ji and the others saw Yun Shujo and the other two looking for Beiming in panic. Yuan Ji quickly brought his people to help look for him, but they didn't find anything. There wasn't even a footprint. Yun Shujo, this drama queen, immediately howled. Shui Wuji comforted her, "Little sister Jo, maybe that facial paralysis has another opportunity. Don't worry too much." Yun Shujo sobbed, "Woo-woo, he was already seriously injured, and now he's nowhere to be found. How can I not worry? Where did he go?" Enfeng, who was at the side, cursed in his heart, "Where is he? He's inside your sleeve. Poor Lord." Chapter 4975. Don't make me look down on you. How would Yuan Ji know that someone could turn into a snake? He immediately believed it and comforted Yun Shujo. After a while, he saw that Yun Shuji's emotions had calmed down a little, so he asked, "Miss Jo, what should we do next?" "I think the people from the Divine Devil Hall will make a move soon." Yun Shujo was about to gloat, but when she thought of her current character, she said listlessly, "Don't worry, I have already asked for reinforcements." "Reinforcements? You asked for help from the ancestor? The ancestor will send someone over?" Yuan Ji asked in surprise. Yun Shujo shook her head. "Not the Lan family, but the Zen sect." Yuan Ji was stunned. Zen sect? This was obviously not related to the Zen sect, okay? The Zen sect had never meddled in worldly affairs. Why would they help this time? However, this female devil in front of him was full of bad ideas. She might have used some wicked method to trick the Zen sect. He thought for a moment and said, "Ninth Miss, is what you said true? Will the Zen sect really come to help? But I estimate that the Divine Devil Hall will send no less than 5,000 people. Even if the Zen sect is willing to help, they may not be a match for the Divine Devil Hall. By the way, Miss Jo, how many people will the Zen sect send to help?" Yun Shujo still looked listless. "Not many people, only about 10,000. Yuan Ji, 10,000? That was not much? Was the Zen sect crazy? How could they send so many people to help?" Yuan Ji wanted to ask more questions, but Yun Shujo covered her face and said, "Don't ask. I'm not in the mood now. Sob, I want to be alone." As she spoke, she covered her face and went into the tent. Yuan Ji sighed. Miss Jo must be too sad. How pitiful. He didn't know that Hei Shinjo was afraid that he would laugh out loud if he continued acting. Most importantly, the little silver snake in the sleeve had already woken up. She was afraid that she would be exposed, so she ran back to the tent. Yun Shujo took out the struggling little silver snake and said in a low and fierce voice, "Gigolo, behave yourself, or I will castrate you." A certain someone, Beiming, was about to call Enfeng to come in when he heard Yun Shujo sneer, "I've already activated the isolation array. No one will come to save you even if you scream. Pretty boy, I don't blame you for losing your memory. After all, this is not your subjective cause. However, if you don't even have an IQ, then they'll look down on you." The small silver snake's vertical pupils immediately turned cold. "What do you mean?" Yun Shujo sneered, "What do I mean? If you have an IQ, you should have guessed my identity and guessed that everything I said to you was true. After all, you are such a tsundere person. If you didn't really agree and accept it, why would there be a woman by your side?" The small silver snake's vertical pupils flashed, but it didn't say anything. What could he say? Could it be that he didn't have intelligence? Also, we're safe and sound now because we paid a huge price in exchange. If you have a brain, then cooperate with my arrangements. Don't let me look down on you. After saying that, Yun Shujo didn't bother with his reaction and directly turned around to leave. A certain lord was stunned for a moment. Although this ugly girl was shameless and lecherous, what she said made sense. A man could bend and stretch, so he would temporarily spare her. Chapter 49-76 Flying Sword. Yun Chujo walked out of the tent. Seeing that Yuan Ji hadn't left yet, she walked over and asked, "Yuan Ji, tell me about the time when I slaughtered everyone." Every time she stimulated her potential, Yun Chujia's memory of that time was very vague, which was why she asked this question. Yuan Ji thought of the situation at that time and couldn't help but shiver. Although this female devil wasn't as abnormal as Di Biming, the scene at that time was also very horrifying. He described the situation in detail. Yun Chujia's blood was boiling when she heard it. She did not expect her little ninth fairy to be so arrogant and domineering. It was a pity that this potential would only be activated after being stimulated. It was really stifling. However, she could practice flying swords when she had the time. Although she could not use 49 swords for the time being, one more would increase her chances of winning. If it was just a simple sword move, she could have commanded 20 swords at the same time. However, she was using the sword techniques on the stone wall now. It was not easy for her to command 8 swords at the same time last time. It seemed that she really needed to practice. Besides, according to Yuan Ji, when she stimulated her potential, each of the flying swords could emit sword will. It was a heaven-defying operation. While He Xinjiu was pondering over the flying swords, Xiao Mogu said with her sole consciousness, "Master, the people of the Divine Devil Temple have reached the edge of the hinterland." Yun Chujiu frowned slightly. She had just talked to a master lay. It would take at least 3 days for the people of the Zen sect to reach the hinterland. She had to think of a way to delay them. Fortunately, the hinterland was big enough. As long as she played hide-and-seek with them carefully, there should be no problem. However, Xiao Mogu quickly poured cold water on her. "Master, the route of the Divine Devil Hall should be heading in our direction. They should have some way to track us." Yun Chujiu subconsciously thought that those people had brought another Xiao Tian hyena. However, she thought that it should not be. This Xiao Tian hyena was very rare. It was already good enough for the Divine Devil Hall to have one. Soon, Xiao Mogu replied, "Master, they didn't bring any spiritual pets." Yun Chujiu frowned. This was strange. How did the people of the Divine Devil Hall know that they were hiding here? Soon, she understood the crux of the problem. They were currently at the gathering place of the demon beast's nest. The people of the Divine Devil Hall should have received a report before and knew that there were many demon beasts around her. Thus, they guessed that they would be hiding here. Yun Chujiu rolled her eyes and decided to beat them at their own game. She immediately gathered the 5 beast kings together. These 5 unlucky fellows had seen Yun Chujia's pervert before, and now they were even more obedient. Yun Chujiu told them what she thought. The 5 beast kings did not dare to have any objections and agreed eagerly. Yun Chujiu immediately arranged for Yuan Ji's subordinates to start setting up the place. After setting up the place, she left quietly. 4 hours later, under the leadership of the purple-masked man, Qi Huan, the people of the Divine Devil Hall arrived at the place where Yun Chujiu and the rest were previously stationed. Qi Huan brought a total of 5,000 people and vowed to capture Di Biming and Yun Chujiu in one fell swoop. This time, they brought the secret medicine to attract the demonic beasts. As long as they lured the demonic beasts to another place, they could easily kill Di Biming and the rest. Qi Huan looked at the messy footprints and claw marks on the ground and smiled contemptuously. It seemed that Di Biming and the rest must have hidden in the beast nest. He immediately got someone to light the incense made from the secret medicine and waited confidently for the demonic beasts to be lured away. Chapter 49-77 Was scared away. Qi Huan waited for a while, but no demon beasts were lured out. He couldn't help but wonder what was going on. This secret medicine had a fatal attraction to demon beasts. How could it be that not a single demon beast was lured out? The reason why the demon beasts chose this area as the gathering place for their nest was because the shrubs here were taller and denser compared to other places. Thus, the situation inside couldn't be seen from the outside. Chi Huan had no choice but to send a portion of his men in to investigate. However, a moment later, there were waves of miserable screams. Following that, some people ran out in a sorry state. "Sir, there isn't a single demonic beast inside. Furthermore, there are traps all over the place. Our men were careless and many of them met with mishaps." Chi Huan gnashed his teeth in anger. These traps were naturally not thought up by the demonic beasts. It must be that Yunchuji's doing. "Sir, what should we do now? They definitely don't dare to leave the hinterland. After all, they still need to rely on those demonic beasts. Search. We must find them." "Yes." Yunchujo was currently leisurely teasing the amnesiac snake in her sleeve pocket. Although a certain deity was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood, he still endured it for the sake of the big picture. Yunchujo was not afraid that the people of the Divine Devil Hall would find her. After all, she had an army of mushrooms all over the hinterland. As long as she was careful, she could completely avoid the people of the Divine Devil Hall. What this guy was worried about now was that once the Zen sect helped him get out of trouble, how could he get out without giving up his money? While Chi Huan was leading his men to search for the traces of Yunchujo and the others, he received a message from his men. "Sir, something bad has happened. Master Lei of the Zen sect is heading towards the wilderness with more than 10,000 disciples. Could he be coming for us?" Chi Huan turned pale with fright. One of the main reasons why the Divine Devil Hall did not make a big fuss in the Chongshao continent was because of the Zen sect. Could it be that they were really coming for them? However, the Divine Devil Hall and the Zen sect had always stayed out of each other's way and maintained the peace on the surface. Why did the Zen sect suddenly make such a big move? Chi Huan naturally did not dare to make a decision on such a big matter. After consulting the higher-ups, he gritted his teeth and left with his men. He Xinjiu soon found out that Chi Huan had left with her people through the mushroom army. Her heart was filled with joy. It seemed that the people of the Divine Devil Hall did not dare to confront the Zen sect head-on. They had given up. However, it was a good thing that they had taken the initiative to retreat. In this way, the Zen sect would not suffer any losses. If she played some tricks, the Zen sect would not be too calculative with her. Yunchujo confirmed that the people of the Divine Devil Hall had all retreated, and then she returned to the nest of the demon beasts. The reason why she specially came back was very simple. She had set up a lot of traps in the nest of the demon beasts, and she had to help restore it. After restoring the nest of the demon beasts, Yunchujo left a lot of elixirs for the 5 beast kings, and then she left with her people. As for the temporary contract, it could only be lifted after they were freed. Otherwise, it would be bad if the demon beasts turned hostile and refused to recognize them. Yunchujo brought her people to the edge of the hinterland and happened to meet a Master Lei and a group of Zen sect disciples. "Amitba. Almsgiver Yun, can you return the dawn bell and Shiwan wooden fish to me?" Master Lei said impatiently. Chapter 4978 Breaking Dawn Bell and Evening Wood Fish. Yunchujo said with a smile, "Master Lei, a good meal is never too late. There's no need to rush, no need to rush. It's not safe yet. You have to escort me back to the Imperial City." For some reason, Master Lei had an ominous premonition in his heart. His face darkened slightly. "Benefactor Yun, this is an important matter. If you have even the slightest bit of deception, don't blame me for not remembering our old friendship." Yunchuji's face was calm. "Master Lei, look at what you're saying. When have I ever lied? If I lie to you, you can do whatever you want with me." Hearing her words, the suspicion in Master Lei's heart was dispelled a little. He nodded. "All right, Then they'll bring people to escort you back to the Lan family. Yuan Ji, who was at the side, almost sat on the ground. Oh my God. This female devil really dared to say that. The daybreak bell and the sunset wooden fish? Where did she get these two treasures? Let's see how she will answer this big lie in the end. Everyone immediately left the wilderness and headed to the imperial city. After confirming that no one from the Divine Devil Hall was tracking them, Shui Wuji and Enfeng bade farewell and left. The reason why the two of them did this was to make Yuan Ji completely believe the fact that Di Baiming had gone missing. On the other hand, Di Baiming arranged for the two of them to handle some matters. Yun Shujiu had given the two of them disguising pills. As long as they were careful, they would not be found by the people of the Divine Devil Hall. According to the experience of Shui Wuji and Enfeng, if it was just the two of them, the Divine Devil Hall would not be able to find them. However, as long as Di Baiming was around, no matter how well they hid themselves, the Divine Devil Hall would always be able to find their general location. Although it was not that accurate, the scope would be very small. However, after Di Baiming turned into a snake, there did not seem to be such a problem. It was really unbelievable. Master Lei did not pay attention to this. His mind was now on the dawn bell and 11 won wooden fish. He wished he could arrive at the imperial city as soon as possible so that he could get the great treasure of the Zen sect. On this day, everyone finally arrived near the imperial city. Master Lei said urgently, "Almsgiver Yun, can you return the dawn bell and Shiwan wooden fish to me now?" Yun Shujiu nodded. After opening the isolation array, she summoned the Buddha's candle. The Buddha's candle was still in hibernation, so it only had a small wax head. It didn't light up, and it was basically unconscious. Master Lei was stunned. Isn't this the Buddha's candle? How did it become like this? Moreover, I said that the breaking dawn bell and Shiwan wooden fish aren't Buddha's candle. Yun Shujiu sighed. Master Li, you might not know this, but when I found the Bell of Dawn and the wooden fish of Shiwan in the purple-masked man's storage ring, I couldn't believe my eyes. Yun Shujiu shook her head repeatedly. The Bell of Dawn and the wooden fish of Shiwan are so dilapidated that it's impossible to tell that they are the most important treasures of the Zen sect. If it weren't for the Buddha's candle reminding me, I would have thought they were two pieces of junk. Master Lei sighed and said, "Well, that's normal. The bell and the wooden fish were snatched by that female devil. Later, she died. I think the bell and the fish must have suffered heavy injuries." Yun Shujiu was stunned. When she found the demon sky bell and the wooden fish in the demon area, they had already suffered heavy injuries. Could it be that they had suffered heavy injuries because they saved her? While Yun Shujiu was still in a daze, Master Li said, "Almsgiver Yun, even though the dawn bell and the Shiwan wooden fish are very worn out, they are still important treasures of our Zen sect. Please return them to me." Chapter 4979 I am a grateful person. Yun Shujiu came back to her senses and said, "Master Lei, I haven't finished my words yet." Buddha's candle was very sad after seeing the miserable state of the dawn bell and the sunset wooden fish. It sucked the dawn bell and the sunset wooden fish into its storage space. It said that it would nourish the dawn bell and the sunset wooden fish with its own Buddhist power. As long as the Buddhist power was sufficient, it would be able to let the dawn bell and the sunset wooden fish recover. I don't know if the dawn bell and the sunset wooden fish have recovered or not, but the Buddha's candle has turned into this half-dead appearance. Yun Shujiu paused for a moment and then said with a pained expression, "How about this, you bring the Buddha's candle back to the Zen sect. After all, the Zen sect has Buddha's power and psyche power. I believe that the Buddha's candle will wake up very soon. This way, the dawn bell and the sunset wooden fish can be released and returned to you. When the time comes, I will go and retrieve the Buddha's candle. After all, you have helped me a great deal this time. It is only right for me to make a little sacrifice." Master Lei was skeptical. He sized up Yun Shujo a few times but did not find the slightest trace of guilt on her face. Just as he was about to ask Yuan Ji, Yun Shujo said mysteriously, "Master Li, this is a secret of the Zen sect. There are some details that they do not know." Master Li thought about it and it made sense. Whoever got the treasure would not shout about it, not to mention that the little girl in front of him was full of evil thoughts. However, was what she said true? Seeing the situation, Yun Shujo said angrily, "Master Li, are you suspecting me? For the sake of your Zen sect's Dawn Bell and Shiwan wooden fish, my Buddha's candle has already become this miserable. It's fine if you don't appreciate it, but you still suspect me?" Master Lei's face suddenly showed some embarrassment. He thought to himself that it was true. This little girl had even given up her Buddha's candle, so she should not be lying. Thinking of this, Master Lei said, "Amitba. Thank you very much, almsgiver Yun. When the Buddha's candle is restored, I will definitely personally bring it to you." Yun Shujo nodded. "No rush. Let it absorb more Buddha energy so that it can help nourish the breaking dawn bell and Shiwan wooden fish. Master Lei, I don't mean to boast, but there are very few people like me who know how to repay kindness." Master Lei's face stiffened, but he still nodded and said, "In that case, I will take my people back to the Zen sect. Please go ahead, almsgiver Yun." "Don't. You came all the way here. It's good to go in and have a cup of hot tea," Yun Shujo said with a smile. Master Lei was eager to return, so he was not in the mood to drink tea. After declining politely, he left with the Zen sect's people. But Face said obsequiously, "Little fairy, this move of yours is simply killing two birds with one stone. Not only did you trick those old monks away, but you can also let the Buddha's candle replenish the Buddha's power as soon as possible. You have broken to a new height." Yuan Ji, who was at the side, was dumbfounded. Since Yun Shujo had activated the isolation array, he did not hear what Yun Shujo said to a Master Lei. He was puzzled. How did this female devil trick a Master Lei? However, the most important thing now was not the Zen sect, but their antidote. "Miss Jo, now that we have safely returned to the Imperial City, shouldn't you give us the antidote?" Yuan Ji asked carefully. Yun Shujo touched her nose. "Well, if I said that I didn't poison you, would you hate me to death?" Yuan Ji. $49.80 No one would believe him if he told the truth. In chapter 4980 Yuan Ji was stunned for a moment, then he said, "Miss Jo, don't joke anymore. Just give us the antidote quickly." The others also begged, "Miss Jo, please give us the antidote." Yun Shujo, he had told too many lies. Why did his conscience suddenly realize that no one would believe him if he told the truth? This fellow had no choice. He threw a few bottles of candy to Yuan Ji and the others and said, all right. It seems that all of you have learned well. I can't lie to you anymore." Yuan Ji and the others immediately swallowed the antidote. They muttered in their hearts. This female devil was different from the others. The antidote was still slightly sweet. After everyone finished eating the antidote, two people immediately roared twice. They realized that there was no dizziness and immediately felt that the poison had really been cured. Yun Shujo secretly laughed in her heart. These people were originally cultivators, so their endurance was naturally stronger than that of ordinary people. Previously, when they roared, they would feel dizzy. A large part of the reason was that they had exhausted both their spiritual power and physical strength. Now that they were all alive and kicking, it was natural that they would be fine after they roared. Yun Shujo glanced at them and then said with a faint smile, "When we go back, do you know what you can and cannot say?" Although Yun Shujo had a faint smile on her face, for some reason, everyone shivered. The first image that appeared in their minds was the perverted performance of this female devil when she was slaughtering everyone. Yuan Ji asked tentatively, "Miss Jo, then what can I say?" "What can I say? Other than the matter of my spiritual pet, puppet, and Qi Ying, and the matter of me feeding the gigolo's blood," you can say anything else. I usually don't threaten people. It's all up to the other party's self-awareness. You guys are very self-aware, right? Yuan Ji and the others, if you have the ability to say that, don't use that lousy kitchen knife to compare. Actually, Yin Shujiu could let the nightmare beast weave a dream for them. But first, because Yuan Ji and the other spiritual power was relatively high, Yin Shujiu was afraid of making a mistake. Secondly, the people of the Divine Devil Hall probably already knew about this. Sooner or later, the ancestor of the Lan family would also know about it. She only needed to buy some time. There was no need for too much trouble. Thirdly, every time Meng Yanshou used the ability to weave a dream, it would recover for a long time. It was better to save it for more important times. Finally, Yuan Ji represented everyone and expressed that he would not say anything. Only then did Yin Shujiu put away her large kitchen knife and waved her claws. Let's go into the city. The old ancestor must have missed me to death. Yuan Ji, it's more like I want you to die. After everyone entered the imperial city, Yin Shujiu did not return to the third room. Instead, she went straight to the ancestral residence. When Lan Luoyan saw Yin Shujiu, she immediately pointed at her and scolded, Yin Shujiu, you troublemaker. You still know how to come back. It was because of you that Sister Xian returned to the Mu family in a fit of anger. That was why the Mu family had severed all ties with the Lan family. Moreover, now the Mu family, Zhuang family, and Qi family have formed an alliance to deal with the Lan family. This is all your fault. Yin Shujiu immediately understood why the ancestor of the Lan family was so angry that he even cursed. It turned out that they were surrounded by enemies. It was likely that the Divine Devil Hall was involved in this. However, she did not know which family of the Mu family, Zhuang family and Qi family had joined the Divine Devil Hall, or did they all join the Divine Devil Hall? Chapter 4981 is not about length. With fools. Lan Luoyan saw Yin Shujiu not to make a sound, thought she was guilty. The voice is more sharply said, Yin Shujiu, if you still have a bit of conscience, take the initiative and fall. Dust brother distanced, let him to purple smoke. Sister apologize. The others also echoed, that's right, you can't compare with Mu Xian at all. If you know what's good for you, quickly apologize to Mu Xian and don't bother Lan Luochen in the future. Yin Shujiu, you're already extremely lucky to be able to return to the Lan family, yet you still covet something that shouldn't belong to you. Do you still have any face? Yin Shujiu didn't do anything, but the little silver snake in her sleeve was furious. This bunch of idiots. What nonsense are you spouting? This stinky girl is his fiancée, all right? That Lan Luochen is nothing. Still coveting? Would that ugly girl covet him? Shameless. Yin Shujiu and the rest of the crowd quieted down a little before chuckling. As the saying goes, if you don't argue with a fool, I'm in a hurry to meet the ancestor. I don't have the time to talk nonsense with you. Get out of my way, or I'll kill all of you. Lan Luoyan sneered twice. Yin Shujiu, you're still so arrogant now? You've caused such a huge disaster. Do you think the ancestor will still protect you? I'll let you learn your lesson today. As Lan Luoyan spoke, she released her spiritual power, the goshawk, and the spiritual power, the fire butterfly. She had already calculated in her heart. Although she was not confident of defeating this Yin Shujiu, there were still so many people behind her. As long as she took the lead, the others would definitely act immediately. Yin Shujiu lightly jumped to the side and said to Yuan Ji, catch this fool for me, let her learn a lesson. Yuan Ji's heart was like a dog that was bawling, but he did not dare to disobey. Yuan Ji's spiritual power was much higher than Lan Luoyan's, and he was able to subdue Lan Luoyan in a few moves. Lan Luoyan was so angry that she cursed, Yuan Ji, you are just Brother Luchen's dog, and you dare to offend your superior? Are you crazy? However, he quickly recovered his calm expression. At this moment, Yun Shujo gave Lan Luoyen 2 tight slaps. Who are you calling a dog? Don't you know the principle that the strong are respected? Yuan Ji is much stronger than a fool like you. Since you don't know how to speak human language, I'll teach you a good lesson. As she spoke, Yun Shujo gave Lan Luoyen another 2 slaps. Lan Luoyen instantly turned into a pig's head and barked like a pig being slaughtered. Yuan Ji never thought that Yun Shujo would actually speak up for him. The feelings in his heart were a little complicated. After Yun Shujo finished beating up Lan Luoyen, she looked at the others and sneered, who else was barking just now? All of you, slap yourselves in the mouth, or else I'll make a move. Lan Luocheng and the others had gone to the cultivation room to cultivate, so the remaining people were basically Lan Luoyen's lackeys. Now that Lan Luoyen had been dealt with, and Yuan Ji was obviously in cahoots with Yun Shujo, they were a little scared. However, it was too embarrassing to slap themselves, so they all retreated a few steps in fear and did not make a move. Yun Shujo kicked Lan Luoyen to the side and then said to Yuan Ji, beat her up, 2 slaps for each person. Yuan Ji was now on the boat of thieves, so he could only do as he was told. When those people saw that Yuan Ji was going to make a move, they scattered like birds and beasts and turned around to run into the ancestral residence. They did not believe that Yun Shujo would still dare to be so arrogant in the ancestral residence. Chapter 4982, Breaking Your Legs. Yun Shujo said coldly behind them, if you still don't stop, I'll break your legs the next time I see you. A few people stopped in fear, but there were still a few people who continued to run forward because they felt that Yuan Ji couldn't follow Yun Shujo at any time. The next time they met, they might not be able to beat each other up. Yun Shujo walked in front of the few people who stopped and said indifferently, slap yourself, and this matter will be over. The few people looked at each other, gritted their teeth and slapped themselves. They also understood that they could at least slap themselves a little. You can leave now. If I hear you say bad things about me in the future, I'll cut off your tongues. Get lost. Yun Shujo said coldly. The few of them trembled under Yun Shuji's cold gaze and immediately ran away. Yun Shujo glanced at Yuan Ji, who was behind her. You remember the few people who ran away before, right? Find an opportunity to break their legs. Do you hear me? Yes, Miss Jo. Yuan Ji braced himself and answered. Yuan Ji's heart was like a beeping dog. Shouldn't this female devil be worried about the old ancestor's punishment now? She actually had the leisure to deal with these idiots. She had caused too much trouble this time. The old ancestor would definitely not be kind this time. He would definitely lock her up in the forbidden area or give her a heavy punishment. She still wanted to break those people's legs. Perhaps the old ancestor would break her legs. The amnesiac snake in his sleeve pocket had completely different thoughts from Yuan Ji. He thought that the ugly girl was still passable. At least she didn't embarrass him. However, she was too kind and soft-hearted. She should have slapped those idiots to death. Yun Shuji's torment at the door naturally reached the ears of the Lan family's old ancestor. The old ancestor smacked the table angrily. This troublemaker. She was still so arrogant. She would definitely learn a lesson later. However, the old ancestor drank 2 pots of tea and did not see Yun Shujo coming over. He sent a message to housekeeper Su, where is that troublemaker? Old ancestor, cousin said that she is hungry and is eating in the big kitchen. The old ancestor's nose almost went crooked from anger. He was waiting here anxiously. That troublemaker actually went to eat? Tell her to get her ass over here right now. Without thinking, the old ancestor directly threw a teacup over, and then heard a muffled sound. Then, he heard Yun Shujo shouting loudly, "I-oh, I-oh. I can't take it anymore, I'm going to faint." The old ancestor could not help but feel a little regretful. It was not that his heart ached, but he felt that if Yun Shujo fainted, he would not be able to ask questions. Just as the old ancestor was feeling regretful, he saw the situation at the door and almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He saw that the troublemaker was fine, and the one who was hit by the teacup was housekeeper Sue. At this time, he heard Yun Chujio say hypocritically, "Housekeeper Sue, I told you not to leave so quickly. Now you've been hit, right?" Housekeeper Sue held his bleeding forehead, and his heart was like a dog crying. She was clearly the one who insisted that he walk in front, okay? She even said that she respected the elders and respected the virtuous. Bah! It turned out that she had already planned it. But, what could he say? This troublemaker had a belly full of bad water. He could not afford to provoke her. Moreover, if he said too much, he might provoke the old ancestor and make him unhappy. Therefore, housekeeper Sue could only bite his teeth and swallow it in his stomach. He did not dare to make a sound. Chapter 4983 had already made a move. Seeing housekeeper Zu's miserable state, the old ancestor of the Lan family waved his hand, indicating that he could leave. Housekeeper Sue held his forehead and left the old ancestor's courtyard. Yuan Ji, who was waiting outside the door, could not help but be stunned. "Housekeeper Sue, what happened to you?" Housekeeper Sue smiled bitterly and shook his head. He did not say anything and waited outside the courtyard with Yuan Ji. Because he felt that the old ancestor had to punish that troublemaker. It was better for him to wait here in case he had to rush over later. As for Yuan Ji, he was waiting here for the old ancestor's inquiry. He thought that the female devil would definitely be severely punished this time. At this time, only the old ancestor of the Lan family and Yun Chujio were left in the study room of the old ancestor of the Lan family. Yun Chujio bared her white teeth and bowed respectfully. "Patriarch, thanks to your advice, I got the help of the Zen sect. You are really smart. If it weren't for your unparalleled wisdom, I wouldn't have survived. My admiration for you is like a torrential river. Tell me, why are you so powerful?" As Yun Chujio had deliberately delayed her arrival for a while, the anger in the ancestor of the Lan family had dissipated a little, and the teacup earlier had dissipated a little. Now that he had been flattered, a part of it had dissipated. The ancestor of the Lan family glared at Yun Chujio, but he did not let her get up. Instead, he said directly, "Tell me what happened." Hei Xingjiu told him everything immediately. Of course, she couldn't hide everything. The more the ancestor of the Lan family heard, the more shocked he became. Whether it was her ability to subdue the demonic beasts or the massacre when she activated her potential, he found it unbelievable. Although he had thought that the little girl had hidden a lot of her abilities, he didn't expect her to be so amazing. The old ancestor steadied his mind and asked again, "Why did you go to Mount Meru previously?" Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and thought for a moment before answering truthfully, "I was struck by lightning. I can only cultivate after being struck by lightning." Only then did the old ancestor notice that Yun Chujio's spiritual power level had already reached the 3rd level of the extreme spiritual realm. Although he had a rough guess before, he was still shocked when he heard Yun Chujio's words. After being stunned for a moment, he asked again, "I remember that the lightning strike lasted about 6 hours, and the lightning struck your body?" Yun Chujio nodded and pouted, that Wu Yun was too useless. "I hadn't absorbed enough, and it was scared away by me." The old ancestor of the Lan family, Wu Yun, was scared away. What kind of pervert was this? He finally understood why this troublemaker was still alive and kicking even though her spiritual power was so useless. So, she was a pervert. After a long silence, Lan family's ancestor said with a gloomy face, "No matter what, you've caused a great disaster this time. Because you've offended the Divine Devil Hall, the Divine Devil Hall secretly instigated the Mu family, Zhuang family, and Qi family to deal with our Lan family. Right now, they are only invading our territory as a test. I reckon that they will soon resort to force. At that time, our Lan family will not be a match for the 3 families at all. If you can let the Lan family get through this crisis, I can let you off this time." Otherwise, HMPH. Yun Shujo rolled her eyes a few times and said, "Old ancestor, I am a member of the Lan family. It is naturally incumbent on me to contribute to the Lan family. Don't worry, I have already made the first move. The three families will soon return to their original states." Chapter 4984 was out of whack. The ancestor of the Lan family was stunned. He has already made the first move. What move? This troublemaker had just gotten out of trouble, so how would he have time to set up any moves? Ancestor, do you know why I asked the people of the Zen sect to escort me to the outside of the Imperial City? It was because of our next move. Next, we will spread the news that the Zen sect is on good terms with the Lan family, and they came all the way to save me. Those three families will definitely be wary of us. Now that the Divine Devil Hall has no idea about the Zen sect's intentions, they will definitely not order those three families to do anything. Then, the Lan family's crisis will be resolved, Yun Shujo said with a smile. The Lan family's patriarch was dumbfounded. She had asked the Zen sect to send her back not only because she was afraid of death, but also because she was afraid of death. There were so many considerations. The Lan family's patriarch was silent for a long time again. He asked in puzzlement, "By the way, what reason did you use to ask the Zen sect for help?" "I said that I got the Dawn Bell and the Shiwan wooden fish from the Divine Devil Temple. As long as they save me, I will return the things to them." Yun Shujo did not hide anything. The patriarch of the Lan family was shocked. "You really got them?" Yun Shujo bared her little white teeth. "No. I lied to them." The patriarch of the Lan family, "Since you lied to them, why didn't the Zen sect pursue you?" "Because I lied to them that the Dawn Bell and the Sunset wooden fish were severely damaged, so the Buddha's candle kept them in its body and nourished them with Buddha's power. When they were fully nourished, it would be released. So, Master Lei brought the Buddha's candle back to the Zen sect," Yun Shujo said with a smile. The Lan family's patriarch was stunned at first, then he cursed in his heart. This troublemaker was really full of evil tricks. He had a nose and eyes. No wonder he had fooled the people of the Zen sect. However, this troublemaker was an iron rooster. Was he really willing to return the Buddha's candle to the Zen sect? The ancestor of the Lan family explained his question, and Hei Shinjo laughed dryly. "The Buddha's candle has fallen into hibernation because it helped me deal with the enemy, and it needs a lot of Buddha energy to nourish it. So, ancestor, you know what I mean." The ancestor of the Lan family, how wicked. This troublemaker was so evil that flowers were blooming. If the monks of the Zen sect knew the truth, they would probably strangle this guy to death, right? Therefore, the Zen sect will not deny the rumors that the Lan family spread. In this way, won't the rumors be confirmed? Hei Shinjo laughed like a wolf with a big tail. The forefather of the Lan family sighed in his heart. This troublemaker's brain is really good. Every step she took was calculated. There was one thing she didn't say. With the support of the Zen sect, he didn't dare to do anything to her. "Aren't you afraid that the Zen sect will find out the truth and take revenge on you in the future?" The patriarch of the Lan family said slowly. "Who can say for sure what will happen in the future? Besides, patriarch, maybe by that time, our Lan family will be able to compete with the Zen sect." "Of course, I'm not afraid that the Zen sect will seek revenge on me," Hei Shinjo said with a smile. The patriarch of the Lan family gave a wry smile. "Compete with the Zen sect? Now, I only hope that the Lan family can protect itself." "Ancestor, you are too modest. You are so smart and farsighted. It won't take long for you to annex the three families." Hei Shinjo flattered her with a smile. Chapter 4985 was fine. The old ancestor of the Lan family let out a long sigh. "If your great-uncle and great-grandfather were still alive, I would naturally have such confidence. It's just a pity that the Lan family has already declined. Yun Shujo knew that the great-uncle and great-grandfather that the old ancestor of the Lan family mentioned was referring to Lan Dimeo's father's generation. Speaking of this, she was really curious. How did Lan Dimeo's previous generation all die? However, she did not dare to ask now. It was not easy to appease the old fox's anger, so she did not want to provoke him again. Ancestor, why do you need to boost the prestige of others and destroy your own spirit? You alone can take on thousands of soldiers and horses. As long as we plan well, our Lan family will definitely be able to annex them. Hei Shinjo clenched her fist and said confidently. The old ancestor laughed bitterly and wanted to make Yun Shujo stand up. However, he realized that this troublemaker had already been sitting on a chair by the side. He paid too much attention to what she said and didn't pay too much attention to it. Alright, you can go back first. As for your punishment, they'll see how the Mu family will react first. The old ancestor waved his hand and said. Alright, old ancestor. Remember to spread the rumors. It's best to be vague and let them think about it themselves. Seeing that the old ancestor nodded in agreement, Yun Shujo bowed and hopped out of the study. Yes, before she left, she even took the pastries and spiritual fruits from the coffee table. The old ancestor gritted his teeth and didn't say anything. Housekeeper Su and Yuan Ji, who were outside the courtyard, saw that Yun Shujo had come out just like that. Both of them were in disbelief. The ancestor actually did not punish her. She had gotten into such a big trouble, but she was still fine. Hei Shinjo smiled at housekeeper Su, then took out a spiritual fruit and gave it to him. The ancestor gave it to you to let you recuperate. Housekeeper Su was touched when he saw that the spiritual fruit was indeed given to his ancestor by someone else. He immediately put it away. Yuan Ji thought that his ancestor would ask him to come in for questioning, but seeing that his ancestor did not seem to have the intention, he had no choice but to follow Yun Shujo out of the ancestral residence. He was really curious, so he asked, Miss Jo, what did you tell our ancestor? Yun Shujo did not hide anything and told him everything. Then she said, you don't have to go back to the third room with me. When I need your help, I will naturally send a message to you. Yuan Ji did not dare to disobey, so he could only go back to the main room. He thought to himself, since only this female devil bullied others, he did not have to worry about her safety. Yun Shujo soon arrived at the door of the third room. As soon as she entered the door, she was called over by Lan Dimeo. Therefore, he was naturally filled with anger toward Hei Shinjo. However, Yun Shujo had already clung onto the old ancestor's thigh, so she was naturally not afraid of Lan Dimeo. She picked up what she could say and said a few words, then said, Uncle, Grandpa, the old ancestor sent me to the wilderness this time. Otherwise, Yuan Ji wouldn't have followed me, right? However, this is a confidential matter. The ancestor didn't want me to say anything, so I could only bear the blame. Lan Dimeo didn't doubt it. After all, if she hadn't been sent by the ancestor and caused such a big trouble, she shouldn't have been released without any punishment. So, Lan Dimeo asked a few more questions and let her go back to his courtyard. Chapter 4986. The one who decided not to speak anymore. Yun Shujo hummed a little tune as she returned to her own courtyard. However, she found that the courtyard was deserted. There was no one there. She frowned. Where did Hong Ling and the others go? She frowned and sent a message to Lan Luofang. I'm back. Come over for a while. Very soon, Lan Luofang replied to her. She was clearly very excited. You came back alive? That's great. My mother forcefully brought me to my maternal home. I'll get my mother to bring me back now. The corners of Yun Shuji's eyes twitched. What did she mean by coming back alive? However, after thinking about it, she understood the reason why Jia Shi did this. Jia Shi was probably afraid that Lan Luofang would be blamed and bullied. After all, Lan Luofang and she had always been close, so it was a smart choice to hide out. After Yun Chuzhou replied to Lan Luofang, she left the courtyard, ready to find someone to ask about the whereabouts of Hong Ling and the other two. Just as she left the courtyard, she happened to meet an old woman. She called out to the old woman and asked, "Where did Hong Ling and the others go?" The old woman's eyes flickered. This, I don't know. Yun Chuzhou was very shrewd. How could she be deceived by an old woman? She immediately grabbed her clothes and said fiercely, "Hurry up and tell the truth, or I'll kill you." The old woman was so scared that she was trembling. "Fuck, cousin, I'll tell you. I'll tell you." Hong Ling and the other two made a mistake and were sent to the laundry room by Nanny Lu. I heard that the old woman was going to sell them to Spring Fragrance Restaurant today. Yun Chuzhou knew that Spring Fragrance Restaurant was a brothel in the Imperial City. The anger in her heart immediately rose. Good, very good. She even dared to touch her people. She was really courting death. Yun Chuzhou released the old woman's clothes and said coldly, "Keep your mouth shut, or I'll torture you to death." The old woman said with trepidation, "Yes, yes. I didn't say anything. I don't know anything." Yun Chuzhou quickly jumped towards the laundry room. Her expression was very gloomy. That Nanny Lu was from the first Madame Zhuang Shi. Needless to say, this must have been instigated by Zhuang Shi. Very good. She originally did not have the mood to teach Zhuang Shi a lesson. Since she was courting death, then she would send her on her way. The small silver snake in the sleeve pocket sensed Yun Chuzhou's anger and said in a low voice, "You're really useless. You can't even protect your own people. Shut up. You idiot who even forgot about your own fiancé, what right do you have to bicker here? Don't you know what kind of person you are?" Yun Chuzhou was worried about Hong Ling and the other two, so she naturally did not treat a certain honored guest well. Actually, he had not spoken to Yun Chuzhou for a long time. He wanted to find a topic to talk about, but in the end, a certain someone decided to not say a word from now on. He wanted to make this ugly girl take the initiative to admit her mistake. Yun Chuzhou did not have the time to care about the thoughts of a certain someone. She quickly rushed to the laundry room. At this moment, in the courtyard of the laundry room, a fierce-looking old woman was spitting on the floor. "Hong Ling, don't blame me for not remembering our old friendship. I'll show you a clear path now. Miss Xiang Yuan's brother, Shi Lu, has the intention to take you as a concubine. If you agree to marry him, he won't sell you to Spring Fragrance Restaurant. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble." Hong Ling spat. "Nanny Lu, it's fine if you punish us to the laundry room with groundless accusations, but if you want to sell us to Spring Fragrance Restaurant, our miss will not forgive you if she comes back." Chapter 4987, You Dare to Touch My People? Nanny Lu laughed so hard that the fat on her face was trembling. "You bitch, are you talking nonsense? That Yun Chuzhou might already be dead. Why would she come to save you? Dream on. Since you don't know how to appreciate favors, I can only sell all of you to Spring Fragrance Restaurant," Nanny Lu said as she looked at the woman who specialized in selling human beings. "Granny Li, I'll leave these 3 bitches to you." Granny Li could not stop smiling. Hong Ling and the other two were all good-looking. She was going to make a fortune this time. Granny Li was about to ask her people to bring Hong Ling and the other two away when Hong Ling suddenly broke free from the old woman who was restraining her. Then, she took out a thick stack of talismans. "If any of you dare to move, I'll bury her with me." At the same time, Lu Luo and Kai Yun also broke free from the restraint and retreated to Hong Ling's side. They also took out a stack of talismans. These talismans were left for them by Yun Chuzhou for self-defense. They were originally sent to the laundry room, so the 3 of them felt that it didn't matter if they suffered a little. After all, their young miss might not be dead now, so they didn't want to stir up trouble. Who would have thought that this Nanny Lu would be so vicious? She wanted to sell them to such a dirty place. Nanny Lu never thought that Hong Ling and the others would have so many talismans. She took a few steps back and said in exasperation, "Little bitch, so what if you have talismans in your hands? I'll go report to the first madam and send the guards over. Your broken talismans are useless." Nanny Lu was about to report to the first madam, Zhuang Shi, when she heard a cold voice, "You dare to touch my people? You're really tired of living." Before Nanny Lu could react, her fat body was kicked away and fell to the ground. Nanny Lu looked up and exclaimed, You bitch, why did you come back? Hong Ling, slap her. Let her know what it means to be superior and inferior, Yun Shujiu said with narrowed eyes. Hong Ling saw that Yun Shujiu had returned safely and was so happy that she cried. She immediately felt confident and walked up to Nanny Lu to give her a few tight slaps. Yun Shujiu glanced at the few handmaidens that Nanny Lu had brought with her. The few handmaidens remembered the cruelty of this young cousin and immediately knelt on the ground, blaming everything on Nanny Lu. Yun Shujiu ignored them and looked at Nanny Lu. Tell me, who is involved in this matter? If you don't tell me the truth, I will cut off your tongue. I'm the eldest madam's person, you can't. Nanny Lu screamed because Yun Shujiu had cut off one of her fingers. Tell me, I'll tell you. It was Miss Xiang Yuan who gave me benefits. She asked me to take care of the three of them, or let Hong Ling marry her brother, or sell her to Chuanxiang restaurant. Yun Shujiu narrowed her eyes. What about other than Xiang Yuan? Nanny Lu shook her head. There's no one else. It's just that I don't like them. In addition to the benefits of Miss Xiang Yuan, so I was blinded by the lard. Please spare my life, miss. Yun Shujiu sneered in her heart. It seemed that Zhuang Shi's methods were not bad. It seemed that she could not dig anything out from this Nanny Lu. Yun Shujiu looked at the granny broker. This Granny Lu is for you. Remember to sell her to Spring Fragrance Restaurant. Otherwise, I will torture you to death. The granny broker was both afraid and troubled. This Granny Lu was old and ugly. Why would Spring Fragrance Restaurant want her? Chapter 4988 had never had any rules. The granny broker wanted to reject her, but when she saw Yun Shujiu's cold gaze, she swallowed her words. She thought to herself, if worst comes to worst, she would just give this old and ugly Granny Lu to Spring Fragrance Restaurant for free. At this moment, the granny broker thought of a crucial question. Miss, cousin, where is her indenture? The granny broker was an old fox. This Nanny Lu was a servant. If she did not have the indenture, Spring Fragrance Restaurant would never dare to accept it. Yun Shujiu curled her lips. Follow me. I will look for First Aunt to get her indenture. When Nanny Lu heard this, her eyes flashed with joy. First Madam would definitely not give the indenture to this slut. She had done so many things for First Madam. First Madam would definitely protect her. Yun Shujiu saw the joy in Nanny Liu's eyes and did not say anything. She only asked Hong Ling and the other two to follow her to Zhuang Shi's courtyard. Zhuang Shi had only just learned that Yun Shujiu had not only returned safely, but that her ancestor had not punished her. She immediately panicked. Before she could send someone to stop Nanny Lu, something had happened in the laundry room. Lan Luoshan comforted her, Mother, you don't have to worry too much. Nanny Lu doesn't have the guts to betray you. If the worst comes to the worst, we can just abandon her. No matter how much Yun Shujiu can do, she's still an orphan. She doesn't have the guts to do anything to you. Zhuang Shi thought about it and it made sense. In the Lan family's 3 branches, other than Lan Dimeo, who would dare to do anything to her? Even that bitch Jia Shi didn't dare to do anything to her on the surface. Therefore, when Yun Shujiu brought Nanny Lu and the others to the entrance of the courtyard, she was directly shut out. Miss Cousin, eldest madam is not feeling well and will not see any guests. If you have something to do, we can talk about it tomorrow. Zhuang Shi's maid Lian Xiao said with a fake smile. Yun Shujiu reached out and slapped her. Brainless fool. Am I a guest? Get lost. Lian Xiao was stunned by the slap. Before she could react, Yun Shujiu had already brought people into the courtyard. The maid at the door wanted to stop her, but she was frightened by Yun Shujiu's cold gaze and did not dare to move. After all, Lian Xiao's face was still swollen. Zhuang Shi saw Yun Shujiu barge in and could not help but slap the table. Yun Shujiu, do you still think highly of me as your aunt? Don't you know that you need to report to the elders when you enter their courtyard? Lan Luoshan said softly from the side, that's right, little sister Jiu. You shouldn't have barged in here. If word gets out, it'll be said that you have no rules. Yun Shujiu kicked Nanny Lu to the ground and then said with a faint smile, rules? I've never heard of those two words. I'm not in the mood to play any tricks with you. I'll give you two choices. One is to voluntarily give me the indentures of Nanny Lu, Hongling, and the other two. The other is to give me 1 million high-grade spirit stones as compensation for mental damage. The other choice is to force you to do this. Hearing that, Zhuang Shi picked up the teacup and threw it on the ground. Yun Shujiu, are you trying to rebel? I think you really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. You're just an orphan girl from a low-grade continent. What right do you have to yell at me here? Yun Shujiu took out cheap one from her storage ring and said casually, with this sword in my hand. I'll count to 3. If you don't do it, I'll kill this Granny Lu. Chapter 4989, Thank you, Aunt Zhuang Shi was furious. You, how dare you? Pfft. Yun Shujiu stabbed Granny Liu's throat with her sword. Granny Liu's fat body immediately fell to the ground. Zhuang Shi had never dreamed that Yun Shujiu would actually dare to kill Granny Lu. Her expression immediately changed and she shouted, Men! Men! Quickly, men! There were many guards outside the courtyard. They immediately rushed into the courtyard, and one of them, a small leader, brought a few people into the house. Zhuang Shi saw the few guards and instantly felt confident. She said viciously, Take down this Yun Shujiu who has offended her superiors. Before the small leader could do anything, he heard Yun Shujiu say coldly, If you don't want to die, then get the hell out of here. Otherwise, I'll kill all of you. The leader was Zhuang Shi's trusted aide, so he naturally would not be threatened by Yun Shujiu. He was at the 6th level of the extreme spiritual realm, so he did not put Yun Shujiu, who was at the 3rd level of the extreme spiritual realm, in his eyes at all. He laughed sinisterly, Miss Cousin, I advise you not to resist. Otherwise, it would not be good if I don't show any mercy. As he spoke, he walked towards Yun Shujiu, wanting to subdue her. However, the moment he got close to Yun Shujiu, he stumbled. Yun Shujiu's sword lightly slashed, and the head of the leader fell to the ground. Zhuang Shi screamed, and the other maids in the room also screamed. Yun Shujiu curled her lips and took a few steps forward. This is not my fault. He came here by himself. Aunt, my patience has a limit. Do you agree to my conditions or not? Zhuang Shi looked at the blood-dripping sword in Yun Shujiu's hand. She was both angry and afraid. Just as she was about to get the other guards to attack together, Lan Luoshan smiled and said, Mother, just do as little sister Jiu said and return Hongling and the other two's indentures to them. Then, give little sister Jiu 1 million upper-grade spirit stones. We are a family. Why do you have to make things so unpleasant? Zhuang Shi looked at Lan Luoshan in confusion, but she still said, All right, then do as Luoshan said. Then, thank you very much, First Aunt. Yun Shujiu said with a smile. Zhuang Shi gritted her teeth and got someone to give the indentures of Hong Ling and the others to Yun Chuzhou. She also transferred 1 million upper-grade spirit stones to Yun Chuzhou. Yun Chuzhou nodded with satisfaction. First aunt, Sister Luoshan, sorry for the disturbance. I will take my leave now. Oh right, let me remind you. If you don't want to die, don't provoke me in the future. Otherwise, I will make the Zhuang family die with you. Zhuang Shi was so angry that she almost fainted. She said to Lan Luoshan, Luoshan, why did you stop me? This bitch is courting death. Mother, I just thought of something. She caused a huge disaster, but she didn't receive any punishment. There must be something wrong. If we rashly fight with her, we might incur the displeasure of our grandfather or even our ancestors. That's why I stopped you. Zhuang Shi thought for a moment. What you said makes sense. But, are we just going to let it go? Let that bitch humiliate us like this? That bitch is cooking by herself now. We don't even have the chance to poison her. I'm so angry. Mother, we're not the only ones who hate her. The people from the eldest and second branches also hate her. As long as I instigate her a little, someone will help us take care of her, Lan Luoshan said viciously. Chapter 4990. After Yun Chuzhou brought Hong Ling and the others out of Zhuang Shi's courtyard, she said to the granny broker, You almost took my people away today. Shouldn't you show me something? The granny broker apologized profusely, Miss Cousin, I'm sorry. I was deceived by that nanny Lu. It's all my fault. Please spare me. Yun Chuzhou said coldly, If a few words of apology can solve the problem, why do you still need the sword in my hand? The granny broker was dumbfounded. What did this mean? This jinx was not going to kill her as well, right? Hong Ling reminded her, kindly, you have to be sincere in your apology, such as spirit stones. Do you understand? Yun Chuzhou looked at Hong Ling with appreciation. This child was worth teaching. The old woman almost cried. She had failed in this deal, and she still had to pay for it. However, when she thought about how this person had killed 2 people in a row, if she didn't do it, her life would probably be over, so she could only take out 10,000 high-grade spirit stones with heartache. Miss Cousin, these spirit stones are my compensation. Yun Chuzhou's face darkened. Are you trying to send a beggar away? The old woman took out 100,000 high-grade spirit stones in the end and ran away. Oh God, she would never come to the Lan family again. It was too scary. Yun Chuzhou ignored the old woman who had left. Instead, she brought Hong Ling and the other 2 to the stables and killed the stone road that was coveting Hong Ling. The people in the stables did not even dare to say a word. They just watched Yun Chuzhou leave with her people. Hong Ling originally thought that Yun Chuzhou would bring them back to the courtyard. However, she did not expect that she would bring them directly to the ancestral residence. The moment Yun Chuzhou entered the ancestral residence, she said to the guard, Call housekeeper Su over here. Soon, housekeeper Su, whose forehead was still wrapped in a cloth, ran over happily. Miss Cousin, why are you looking for me? Xiang Yuan is bold enough to sell my 3 handmaidens to Spring Fragrance Restaurant. What do you think we should do about this? Yun Chuzhou said coldly. Housekeeper Su cursed Xiang Yuan in his heart. This fool, did he not learn his lesson from the last time? She actually came to provoke this female devil again. She was really courting death. Yun Chuzhou nodded her head in satisfaction. Housekeeper Su, you're really not bad. In the future, I'll have to go out to do some errands. I'll leave the safety of my 3 handmaidens to you. Housekeeper Su secretly complained in his heart, but he didn't dare to refuse. He could only grit his teeth and say, Miss Cousin, if you're not here, they can come to me if they have any difficulties. I'll definitely do my best. Yun Chuzhou nodded in satisfaction once again, and then passed him 10,000 high-grade spirit stones. I'll give it to you. Housekeeper Sue almost cried. Oh God, the iron rooster has finally plucked feathers. It really wasn't easy. At this time, Xiang Yuan had already been brought over. Xiang Yuan knew that the matter had been exposed when she saw Hong Ling and the other two, and her face couldn't help but turn pale. Yun Shujiu glanced at Hong Ling and said, Hong Ling, I'll hand her over to you. You can do whatever you want with her. Hong Ling was stunned. Then, with red eyes, she said, Thank you, miss. After Hong Ling said that, she walked to Xiang Yuan and said, Xiang Yuan, just because your brother coveted my looks, you tried every means to frame me. You're really vicious. Right now, Xiang Yuan only wanted to save her life. She pleaded, Sister Hong Ling, I was wrong. Please spare me. I will definitely make it up to you in the future. Xiang Yuan's words came to an abrupt stop because Hong Ling had directly cut her throat. Miss had said before that being merciful to the enemy was cruel to oneself. She could not let Miss down. Chapter 4991. The original body was detoxifying. Housekeeper Su saw that Hong Ling had killed Xiang Yuan and cursed in his heart. Indeed, the kind of master had the kind of maid. This Hong Ling was originally a gentle character, but now she had become so fierce. Yun Shujiu was very satisfied with Hong Ling's decisiveness in killing. She said to Housekeeper Su, Since the matter has been settled, I'll go back now. See you later. What could Housekeeper Su say? He could only respectfully send this fiend out. It was better to stay away from this fiend in the future. One could not afford to offend him, but one could hide from him. He Xinjiu brought Hong Ling and the other two out of the ancestral residence in a swagger. They strolled around the streets and even specially made a meal in the restaurant. In the name of it, they were going to get rid of the bad luck. It was not until the sky gradually darkened that they returned to the third branch of the Lan family. When they reached the courtyard, He Xinjiu washed up. Before she fell asleep, she felt as if she had forgotten something. Forget it, it was probably nothing important. Let's talk about it tomorrow. In her sleeve pocket, a certain someone was sulking with an empty stomach. This ugly girl was getting more and more outrageous. She did not even give him food. Was she trying to starve him to death? Could it be that she wanted him to ask her for food pitifully? Humph. He didn't care about the food that was given to him. He would rather starve. Moreover, he was a dignified supreme emperor, so he naturally had to sleep on the bed. He didn't want to sleep in the sleeve pouch. Hence, when he noticed that Yun Shujiu was already fast asleep, he crawled out from the sleeve pouch and climbed onto the bed. A certain deity's vertical pupils stared coldly at Yun Shujiu, thinking that he would definitely teach her a lesson when he recovered. Coincidentally, at this moment, Yun Shujiu flipped over and coincidentally pressed her arm on the small silver snake's body. The small silver snake finally crawled out from under Yun Shujiu's arm after a long time. It could not help but feel a little indignant. It climbed onto the pillow and stared at Yun Shujiu's sleeping face with its vertical pupils. It let out a cold snort. How ugly. At this moment, Yun Shujiu turned over. The small silver snake did not react. Its head coincidentally bumped into Yun Shujiu's lips. Then, the small silver snake had a nosebleed. Oh my, this was a good thing to celebrate. However, she quickly gave up on this thought because the position was not right. The blood spread all the way to the ground, and there were even a lot of blood stains on the clothes on the chair. Yun Shujiu's heart instantly sank. Could it be that something happened to the gigolo? She did not have time to think too much. She jumped to the ground barefooted and opened her sleeve bag in a hurry. When she saw that the silver snake was perfectly fine, she finally let out a sigh of relief. You're not injured, right? Is this blood yours? Yun Shujiu picked up the small silver snake and asked while examining it. A certain being snorted coldly. I don't know. It has nothing to do with me anyway. Yun Shujo saw that the small silver snake didn't have any wounds on its body. She was puzzled. Then where did this blood come from? Men and women shouldn't be intimate. Quickly put me down, a certain being said coldly. Yun Shujo curled her lips and threw a certain venerable on the table. Because there was blood in her sleeve bag, it couldn't be used anymore. The small silver snake saw Yun Shujia's curled lips and couldn't help but remember what happened yesterday. The small silver snake's nosebleed spurted out again. What are you looking at? This venerable one is just detoxifying, a certain venerable said confidently with 2 lines of nosebleed. Chapter 4992, You're Not Too Bad Looking. Yun Shujo was dumbfounded. When did this pretty boy become so shameless? Detoxification? Detoxification my ass. Too shameless. Yun Shujo threw her clothes on the small silver snake angrily. A certain someone who was pressed under the heavy clothes said without fear of death, You're thinking too much. You're so ugly and your figure isn't good. Do you think that anyone would want to see you? Yun Shujia's hand that was putting on her clothes immediately stopped. Was she hot or ugly? Her figure wasn't good either. A certain being didn't know that he had stepped on the cat's tail, so he continued to say in a suicidal manner, It's fine if you're ugly, but you're always putting on airs. People should know their limits. Before the certain being could finish his words, Hei Shinjo picked up his tail and threw it against the wall. Pretty boy, I gave you some face, didn't I? I'll turn you into a dead snake today. Even if he turned into a snake, his body was still very tough. Therefore, it was not a big deal for Hei Shinjo to throw him like that. However, he felt that his face had been trampled on and said coldly, Ugly girl, you are courting death. Ugly girl? Hei Shinjo was even angrier. This pretty boy had not lost his memory, he was rebelling. Therefore, he fell even harder. The venerable felt dizzy after being thrown, and he felt even more humiliated. He angrily said, Ugly girl, stop right now, or I won't be polite anymore. Yun Shujo immediately stopped moving. The silver snake was secretly delighted. It seemed that he had scared this ugly girl. At this moment, he heard Yun Shujo say word by word, You actually threatened me? So what if I threatened you? You treated this venerable self like this. This venerable self has already given you a lot of face by not killing you. Hearing this, Yun Shujo directly threw the small silver snake on the ground. Then, she lay on the bed and sobbed. The little silver snake immediately froze. Why was she still crying? He didn't say anything. This ugly girl was so thick-skinned that she didn't even cry when she was in danger. Why was she crying so sadly now? The little silver snake only felt pain in his heart and his mind was filled with regret. If he had known that this ugly girl loved to cry, he wouldn't have said anything earlier. A moment later, the little silver snake said stiffly, I didn't say anything. Why are you crying? I'm just trying to scare you. I won't do anything to you. Hei Shinjo cried even more sadly. Sob, 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 sob. You are no longer a gigolo who dotes on me and pampers me. A gigolo won't say that I'm ugly, won't say that I have a bad figure. Sob, 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 a certain someone said dryly, actually, you are not that ugly. No, what I mean is that you are not ugly. Your looks are passable. Hei Shinjo, you are passable. Your whole family is passable. A certain someone also felt that what he said was wrong. He added, I mean your looks are quite pleasing to the eye. Quite good looking. After saying that, a certain honored warrior's body turned pink again, and he felt uncomfortable all over. Then you said that my figure is not good? Tell me, do you like the magnificent ones? Hei Shinjo said fiercely with tears on her face. Hearing that, a certain honored warrior said anxiously, Nonsense. I don't like steamed buns, so I like them. I like little Tangyuan. Chapter 4993 Dreamed of a Snake. Little Tangyuan. Hei Shinjo cried even harder. Tangyuan was not big to begin with, and it was still little Tangyuan. This was a blatant mockery. She also wanted to have waves, but because of the damn Guai Chao, she did not come to Kueishui for a long time. It was already very good that she could be this big, okay? Furthermore, it was clearly, big, Tangyuan, Tangyuan. The Guai Chao in her dantian was pretending to be dead because it had a premonition that it was going to be scolded again. It was all because of that pretty boy. Was he stupid? He deserved to be turned into a snake. Seeing Yun Shujo crying even more sadly, a certain venerable was immediately paralyzed. Did he say something wrong again? A certain venerable was frustrated by Hei Xinjia's crying and did not know how to comfort her. He said anxiously, "It's not small. It's really not small. It's much bigger than mine." Hei Shinjo, she was a young girl who was older than a man. Was this something to be proud of? This damn gigolo must have humiliated her on purpose. She was so angry. This elder was really dumbfounded. Why was everything he said wrong? If he had known this would happen, he would not have said anything. Fortunately, at this moment, Hong Ling's voice came from outside the door. "Miss, third elder wants you to go to the study." Yun Shujo had activated the isolation array previously, so Hong Ling did not know what had happened in the room. Moreover, Hong Ling and the other two were very conscious. Unless there was an emergency or Yun Shujo called them, they would not come to the main house. "Got it. I'll go over now," Yun Shujo replied. Yun Shujia's eyes were red, and she did not even look at the small silver snake. She put the clothes that were stained with blood into her storage ring. As for the blood stains on the bed, she did not care. Anyway, Hong Ling would not say anything. Yun Shujo thought for a moment and put the small silver snake into her sleeve bag. Then, she did not wash up. She just left the room with her hair disheveled and red eyes. Hong Ling was shocked. "Miss, what happened to you?" "I had a nightmare last night. I was chased by a damn snake for the whole night," Hei Shinjo said in a hoarse voice. Yun Shujo snorted coldly. "No need. I castrated that snake in my dream." "Hong Ling, miss, is it really good for you to be so cruel?" The small silver snake in the sleeve pocket couldn't help but shiver and subconsciously coiled its body together. "Miss, you haven't had breakfast yet. Do you want to eat something first before going over?" Hong Ling asked. "No, I'm not in the mood. I think that old White Lotus from Zhuangshi has complained. It's better for me to go over earlier," Hei Shinjo said lightly. Hong Ling said worriedly, "Miss, third elder won't punish you because of this, right? It's all my fault." Lu Luo and Kaiyun also looked at Yun Shujo nervously, feeling both worried and guilty. Yun Shujo glanced at them and then said word by word, "You are my people. It is only right and proper for me to protect you, so no one is right or wrong. In the future, if anyone dares to provoke you, beat them hard. I will take care of everything." Hong Ling and the other two were stunned for a moment, and their eyes turned red. They did not say any words of gratitude. All they could do was to put their lives on the line to live up to Miss Words. The little silver snake in his sleeve pocket felt rather upset. This ugly girl treated the maids better than him. He was starving to death. Chapter 4994 Dealing with the Old White Lotus. Hong Ling, come with me. I'll let you see how your miss deals with the White Lotus, Yun Shujo said with a cold smile. If she was in a bad mood, she could vent her anger on the Old White Lotus. Hong Ling immediately accompanied Yun Shujo to Lan Di Mao's courtyard. Zhu Yang was really shocked when he saw Yin Shujia's appearance. What happened to Miss Cousin? Yin Shujio gestured at Zhu Yang with her finger. Zhu Yang hesitated for a moment before walking over. Cousin, what can I do for you? Is my aunt in there? Zhu Yang nodded. Not only is the eldest madam in there, Miss Luo Shan is also in there. Yin Shujio nodded and brought Hong Ling into the courtyard. The guards wanted to prevent Hong Ling from entering, but seeing that Zhu Yang did not say anything, they pretended not to see anything. Before Yin Shujio entered the study, she started howling. Great uncle, great uncle. You have to make a decision for me. I can't live anymore. Hong Ling, who was behind Yin Shujio, was shocked. Was Miss crazy? Lan Di Meo, who was in the study, was about to drink tea when he was frightened by this shout. The teacup in his hand almost fell to the ground. He was about to scold Yin Shujio, but he was shocked by Yin Shujia's miserable state. Yin Shujia's hair was disheveled, her eyes were red and swollen, and there were tears on her face. She looked completely different from her usual lively appearance. Woo, uncle and grandpa, I can't stay in the third room anymore. I've already packed my things. I'm here to say goodbye to you. Hei Xinjiu wiped away her tears and said. Lan Di Meo's expression changed when he heard that. He slammed the table and said, Nonsense. Why can't I stay here anymore? Where do you want to go? He had yet to ask about the whereabouts of the jade token. Besides, the old ancestor obviously valued her. How could he let Yin Shujio leave? Great uncle, I don't want to leave either, but first aunt can't tolerate me. If I stay any longer, it'll be a nuisance. Although I'm thick-skinned, I still want my face. So, I don't want to wait for being chased out. I'd better take the initiative to leave. Moreover, I feel that if I continue to stay here, I'm afraid that I won't be able to keep my life. I was so afraid that I had nightmares all night. Sob, uncle, please let me go, I haven't lived long enough. Yin Shujio said sobbingly. She immediately said, Little Jiu, you have to be honest when you speak. Everyone knows how I treat you. Your words have really disappointed First Aunt. That's right, First Aunt, you treat me extremely well. Before I even arrived, you placed 2 pots of poisonous flowers in my room. Later on, you poisoned my food. Taking advantage of my absence, you wanted to sell my 3 handmaidens to Spring Fragrance Restaurant. You're really good to me. Yin Shujio said with red eyes. Zhuang Shi did not expect Yin Shujio to know about the poisonous flowers and the poison. She panicked for a moment. Lan Luoshan, who was beside her, saw the situation and said gently, Little sister Jiu, you can't slander people. What poisonous flowers and poisons are all made up by you. Also, Hong Ling and the other 2 have broken the family rules. There's nothing wrong with Nanny Lu punishing them according to the family rules. Moreover, Granny Lu and Shi Lu are slaves. If you kill them, so be it. You should never have shouted at my mother to kill her. Now you've reversed the facts and said that my mother can't tolerate you. Little 9th sister, aren't you going too far? Chapter 4995, Eat While It's Hot. Yin Shujio narrowed her eyes. She wanted to play with her mouth. TSK, she was really looking for trouble. Yin Shujio wiped away her tears. Uncle, Grandpa, I'm dumb. I can't win against Sister Luo Sang. Anyway, justice is in the hearts of the people. I don't want to say anything more. Since eldest aunt can't accept me, I'm going to move to the ancestral residence. The old ancestor pitied me, so I should be able to find a place to stay. Lan Di Meo wasn't willing to let Yin Shujio move out. He immediately slammed the table and said, This matter ends here. Don't mention it again. After Lan Di Meo finished speaking, he shot a warning glance at Zhuang Shi. Zhuang Shi's heart was filled with hatred. This old fool, what kind of bewitching potion was this bitch giving him? Yun Shujiu said with grievance, Great uncle, Aunt has always said that she's good to me, but ever since I returned to the Lan family, I've never received my monthly allowance, not to mention the cloth and rouge. I didn't want to say it at first. After all, the family is peaceful and everything is prosperous. But since we've already talked things out today, don't you think you should ask Aunt to give me everything? Lan Dimeo glanced at Zhuang Shi. Is that so? Zhuang Shi's face suddenly stiffened, and she didn't know how to explain. Yun Shujiu sneered in her heart. She hadn't mentioned these things before because she wanted to take advantage of her. Wishful thinking. Aunt, I guess it's because you're too forgetful, so you forgot about this matter. How about this, let's not waste time. You can directly transfer 1 million high-grade spirit stones to me. Although I'll suffer some losses, I'll accept it. Yun Shujiu blinked her eyes and said. Zhuang Shi was so angry that she almost vomited blood. 1 million? Why didn't she rob him? Those monthly fees and rouge powder were at most 200,000, but she actually wanted 1 million? She had already extorted 1 million from her yesterday, and now she still wanted to extort her? At this moment, Lan Dimeo said, Boss, let's do as little Jiu says. Zhuang Shi was furious, but she did not dare to disobey Lan Dimeo's orders. She could only transfer 1 million upper-grade spiritual stones to Yun Shujiu painfully, then found an excuse to leave. She was afraid that if she did not leave now, Yun Shujiu would come up with some bad ideas to blackmail her again. Zhuang Shi was furious. Just as she was about to turn around and argue, she was dragged away by Lan Luoshan. In the study, Lan Dimeo glared at Yun Shujiu. Stop spouting nonsense. In the future, you better restrain yourself, or else I won't let you off so easily. Yun Shujiu bared her white teeth. Uncle, Grandpa, what I said is true. I heard that the Zhuang family has been doing well in recent years. Hearing this, Lan Dimeo was more or less suspicious of Zhuang Shi. This was also what Yun Shujiu wanted to achieve. Regardless of whether it was true or not, it was good to give Zhuang Shi some trouble. Alright, I got it. You can go back. Take care of yourself. Lan Dimeo waved his hand and said impatiently. After Yun Shujiu bowed, she brought Hong Ling out of the study. Hong Ling was completely in awe of her young miss. Not only did Zhuang Shi fail to sue her, she even paid 1 million upper-grade spirit stones. She was probably going to vomit blood from anger. The two of them returned to the courtyard. Lu Luo and Kai Yun heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that Yun Shujiu was safe and sound. Lu Luo smiled and said, Young miss, you must be famished, right? Hurry up and eat your breakfast. I specially cooked your favorite glutinous rice balls today. Eat them while they're hot. Chapter 4996 Breakfast. When Yun Shujiu heard the word, glutinous rice ball, she was instantly in a bad mood. She gritted her teeth and said, I want to eat steamed buns, big steamed buns. Lu Luo and the other two were dumbfounded. Didn't their miss usually dislike steamed buns without stuffing? Why did she have to eat steamed buns today? Miss, this steamed bun can only be steamed with the dough. Can we eat it at noon? If you don't want to eat glutinous rice balls, I even prepared xiaolong bao for you. It's your favorite crab roe stuffing, Lu Luo said carefully. Yun Shujiu, xiaolong bao? Why couldn't she get rid of the word xiao? Forget it. No matter what, xiaolong bao was much bigger than tangyuan. Alright, then let's eat xiaolong bao. After Yun Shujiu said that, her eyes rolled around. Bring the tangyuan over too. Lu Luo didn't know what was wrong with her miss, so she had to send all the breakfast she had prepared to the main house. Alright, you can all leave now. I'll call you if there's anything else. Yes. After Yun Shujiu sent Hong Ling and the other two out, she threw the small silver snake on the table and placed the bowl of glutinous rice balls in front of him. She said fiercely, "Don't you like little glutinous rice balls? Eat them. If you don't eat all these glutinous rice balls today, it'll turn you into a eunuch snake." The small silver snake looked at the tangyuan in the bowl with its vertical pupils, then looked at Yunchuji's pair of rabbit-like red eyes. It lowered its head and began to eat the tangyuan. The small silver snake snorted in its heart. "I'm not afraid of you. I'm just too lazy to argue with you. Besides, I'm hungry." Seeing that he was obedient, Yunchujo snorted coldly and began to eat the soup dumplings while gnashing her teeth. After Yunchujo had eaten her fill, she looked at the little silver snake that was still fighting with the glutinous rice ball. Suddenly, she was furious and directly pressed the little silver snake into the glutinous rice ball bowl. The little silver snake suddenly broke free from her hand. "Ugly girl, do you want to murder your husband?" Yunchujo sneered. "Husband? Whose husband are you?" The little silver snake was both embarrassed and angry. "Don't go too far, or I will run away from home." "Run away from home? You are quite capable now. Go. I want to see where you can go." Hei Shinjo had nothing to fear because she was sure that the little silver snake had nowhere to go. He was so weak now. Where could he go? He thought for a moment and snorted coldly, "You want me to leave just like that?" "I want leave." Yunchujo curled her lips. Once this pretty boy turned into a small silver snake, he would turn from an arrogant and shameless person. Tui. He was still a pervert. Yunchujo could not be bothered with him anymore. She tied a knot and threw him at the corner of the wall. Then, she asked Hongling to come in and tidy up the bedroom and table. The moment Hongling entered, she saw the small silver snake tied in a knot at the corner of the wall. However, she tactfully didn't ask anything. However, when she saw the bloodstain on the bed, she immediately lost her composure. "Miss, are you injured?" The corners of Yunchuji's mouth curled up. "Don't worry, that's not my blood. I castrated that snake last night. This is his blood." Hongling looked sympathetically at the small silver snake in the corner. So it was a eunuch snake. The small silver snake was so angry that its vertical pupils were about to spit fire. It made up its mind that when he returned to his human form, it would definitely let this ugly girl know what it meant to be a husband. Humph. An amnesiac fiancé was also a husband. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.